Hello, everybody. Hey, look at that. Lazarus Dark became an adventurer. Greg C became a sponsor as they re-up their memberships. That is awesome to see. Awesome to see it. Very happy to have everybody here. Great way to start us off here with a bunch of I Am Strongs. Hello and welcome, everybody. Frostjack, we are doing well today. Very strong indeed. Thank you for the continued support, Lazarus and Greg. Those are our YouTube sponsors, also members of our Patreon. So, as a lot of people here are. Welcome, everyone. Yes, chat highlight is in fact back. Yeah, we are here. I found a new option for it, but it is in fact back and happy to see it. So, good evening, everyone. Good evening, CMB. Good to see you as well. Love to see it. Hopefully everybody is doing well this evening. We're going into the holiday season here, and I'm pretty excited about it. We just finished up on Tuesday. What I have to say was a pretty good episode, A Quest for the Frozen Flame. Yes, I rewrote a lot of stuff and put in some pretty cool custom mechanics there, but I think we had a really, really cool, great session, and certainly, hopefully made up for the technical problems that we had in episode 10, part 1. But if you want to see some fun times being had, I recommend you go check out Quest for the Frozen Flame, episode 10, part 2, the final confrontation. I thought it was pretty great. Hopefully everyone is doing well. I'm sure we're still going to get some people here, kind of funneling in over the next few minutes. But it looks like we already have about 30 people, so pretty good group here. Yeah, we're not calling it Final Fantasy X2. That is not going to happen. Can flat lines peak? Yes, technically they can. And John, doing a great job shilling for us. Thank you, John. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to KOLC. Of course, please like it, comment, and subscribe. The whole jazz. So we're here tonight to talk a little bit about Pathfinder 2. We obviously just finished up an adventure of Pathfinder 2. We just finished up our gigantic Northern Reaches game, so a lot of Pathfinder 2 was played. And, we're getting ready for 2023 with a bunch of new Pathfinder 2 releases coming out. But so far, the calendar seems fairly light. And we have a treasure vault, which I'm happy to say that we have in our possession. We're taking a look at it. We'll probably be able to do a preview on it, which is pretty cool, pretty exciting. Nice of Paizo to give us that opportunity. Certainly, you gotta love their faith in their product to give it to us. And we have Rage of Elements coming out at Gen Con. So, pretty crazy. That's a long time to wait. And, we just passed through the third year of the RPG lifecycle. And predictably, I started thinking about, I didn't even really put it together that August was the 3-year, but, obviously we're a couple of months late on that. But, I was thinking about some of my, experience with prior editions of the game. 3rd edition, 3.5, 4th edition. And for a lot of those games, by about the 3-year mark, you kind of got a really good sense of where this particular edition was and where we're going to. And so I wanted to discuss tonight. I have some thoughts. I'm sure you all have some thoughts. I'm eager to see what people in chat say and hopefully bring up some interesting points. We can talk about them. We can discuss them. This isn't a rant. This isn't a diatribe. This is an open conversation about, where is Pathfinder 2 on its life cycle, on its journey? And, a lot of questions were coming up in our Patreon about what does it mean to say it peaked? And I think that's a great question. I think we could talk about a couple different ideas about, has the total number of people playing Pathfinder 2 peaked? Has the game design peaked? Has the quality of the books and the adventures, has that peaked? Where does the game go for, let's say, the next 3 years? Let's assume maybe that we have a 6-year life cycle and, or maybe 8-year life cycle. But, even then, that's a kind of a we're almost about halfway there, one way or the other. And, you know, the end of the product is usually not where its best products are, in my experience, unless sometimes they're testing stuff out for the next edition. And will there be a Pathfinder, third edition? I don't know. So I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to get some of your thoughts about it. We've seen now, we've seen a bunch of adventures that have come out, adventure paths for Pathfinder 2nd edition. We've played some of them. I think the general consensus is that some of them are not so good. Some of them are pretty good. And certainly the one that gets talked about the most is Adventure Vault. I'm sorry, Abomination Vaults. Sorry. Have 4th edition on the brain there. And, we've also seen them come out with the sort of typical array of books that we would expect them to come out with. And they, APG and, a couple of bestiaries. And at this point, we've pretty much seen most of what,
Jason B.
classes.
Hey. You mentioned the PF2 releases coming out, but can we talk about Starfinder, please? Ports of Call, Drift Hackers, 2-star to find Galarian Drift.
It's true. Starfinder is still being produced. Honestly, do not know. Do not know. I don't personally know anybody that plays it. And I'm not saying it's a bad game. I think Starfinder, unfortunately, suffers from the fact that people who play Starfinder probably want it to be Pathfinder 2nd edition mechanics. And it's kind of stuck in between worlds. I'm honestly surprised that they just haven't done a Starfinder 2nd edition yet. It seems to me, and then just sort of take advantage of the Pathfinder 2 hype and sort of, move on to that. But I think a lot more people would be interested in a Starfinder 2nd edition because let's be real here. We're just talking here as friends. I think a lot of people feel like going to Starfinder after playing Pathfinder 2nd edition, it feels like a step backwards. And it's so crazy to me that they're continuing to put so much R&D into the game for that reason. So, in any case, so, I kind of want to talk about those things. Additionally, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, look, we kid because we love, and there are a lot of love for Pathfinder 2, even for me, who is a very obviously vocal critic. But there are some things in Pathfinder 2 that sort of make you roll your eyes and you go, oh, Paizo, what if this is so Pathfinder 2? And so we asked the patrons, I asked the patrons to submit what they felt was the most sort of like sigh, eye roll Pathfinder 2. What's the example of a feat or a class or a rule that feels like the most Pathfinder kind of, proud nail, kind of clunky, kind of eye-rolly, cringy element of the game? And I asked them to submit it. We have 19 responses, so we're going to go through those tonight as well. Yeah. Let's see. Nick Torek says, Abomination Vault was probably the best dungeon crawl AP I've ever played over any TTRPG. Ruby Phoenix was just fun. I'm curious, Nick Torek, what other dungeon crawls have you played? I agree with you. I think that Abomination Vaults is I think it's actually, for me personally, one of the better ones. But I don't know that it's my absolute favorite. But in terms of an actual play dungeon, it's better than Emerald Spire by far. Where is this thing? I got to change it. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, okay. That's just cut off just because. All right. Good stuff. All right. I guess we got to fix that eventually. All right. Sorry about that. I was got distracted there. Okay. Always AFK agrees with me. Better than Emerald Spire. Yeah, Emerald Spire was, I think they were trying to do what they did with Abomination Vaults. It just didn't succeed. So, I mean, I think the biggest advantage of Abomination Vaults is, it's a fairly linear adventure. You go down the dungeon and you get to the bottom and you got to fight the big bad evil guy or gal. And, that it works much better in a dungeon situation because that's what dungeons are designed for. And I think that actually goes to a point about why dungeons are so successful in Dungeons and Dragons.
$15 supporting the channel.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. Rick doing the Lord's work over here with supporting the channel, buddy. Thank you again for the support. So let's talk about the elephant in the room regarding Pathfinder 2 and has it peaked? Pathfinder 2, in my personal opinion, has not peaked in terms of number of players. I think we are going to see a marketed increase in the number of Pathfinder 2 players over the next 2 years as 1D&D continues to roll out and more. And, I did shorts while I was in Vegas. I'm very concerned about what they're doing with 1D&D. And I think that we are going to see more and more players feel like, especially after that call, the marketing call. And I guess this is nothing new. I mean, it's a corporation. We knew this. They're trying to make money. But I think that, they're going to try to split the difference with 1D&D. And they are going to try to create a market paradigm where they upset no one, but somehow bring in everyone. And at the same time, figure out a way to monetize the players and monetize those people who traditionally do not, contribute to the cause. And if this sounds familiar, this is kind of what happened with 4th edition D&D as well. As everyone knows, I'm a fan of 4th edition D&D, but I got to be honest with you, they shit the bed when it came from marketing, and they did a horrible job of keeping and retaining their audience base as they moved into this new edition. Now, with this time around, they're trying to make this big push about how it's not a new edition. But I think there isn't a single, even YouTube content creator, let alone the people on the internet, who have bought into that and believe it's a new edition. Now, that being said, this is something that we learned with Pathfinder 1. It's something we learned with 4th edition and 3rd edition. Do not be confused by the, ranting talking heads on the internet like me, or by people like you who are living, breathing, eating this stuff in the subreddits, on Twitter, actually watching and listening to these 1D&D announcement videos. Because remember that the vast majority of 1D&D players, D&D 5th edition players, don't care about any of this. But that being said, if they do change, but a lot of these people interact with D&D through the lens of D&D Beyond and through the lens of these virtual online tools. And today, those people who, let's just say they're not in the deep end, right? They're in the shallow end of the pool. But today their cost basis is very low. It costs them almost nothing to play D&D. If that changes and Wizards of the Coast starts trying to monetize them, that's where it could potentially draw a line in the sand. Now, I think a lot of those players, to be honest with you, will simply just say, I'm good. D&D was fun. Stranger Things was on TV and it was cool to play D&D while, Eleven and Will and all them were playing D&D and, Vecna, Demogorgon. I get those references now. But I think a lot of people, when faced with buying into the new reality of 6th edition, would just choose to, leave the game. Also, I got a cough here. And so, but not all of them will want to leave role-playing games entirely. And so I think you're going to see people come to Pathfinder 2nd edition. Now, is that a lot of people? No. But D&D is so big, and relatively Pathfinder 2's audience is so small that, Pathfinder 2 player base could double. Easily. And I think those people are coming in from 5th edition. They're going to have a lot of questions. They're going to be coming from a game system like 5th edition where, Pathfinder 2 has a lot of mechanical complexity. I understand that for some people it feels like it's a release, but for a lot of people, I think Pathfinder 2nd Edition is very intimidating, especially potentially the way that people were playing their 5th edition games. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of people coming into Pathfinder 2nd Edition and bringing with them sort of a 5e mentality. You know, Captain Loves says, you really think the random baseline fan of D&D 5e, which is really rules light, will find the jump to Pathfinder 2e palatable? No, I don't. I mean, like I said, I think a lot of people will just quit the hobby, period. But I think that D&D is so big that even if you only get 5%, or hell, 10, you know, something crazy like 10% or 5% of the player base makes the switch to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, that's a huge boost for Paizo, and it's a huge boost for the game. And, you know, I can't, you know, stress that enough, that we, you know, a very small percentage of D&D players is a very large percentage for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. But I want to take this moment to say something. And this is something I've seen all over the internet. Now, I don't understand what it is. I don't know if it's selfishly driven or whatever, but there seems to be a lot of people, you know, Pathfinder 2 enthusiasts who are very, very, they're trying to bring everybody over into Pathfinder. And there's one thing that I keep seeing repeated, and I'm going to go out here and I'm going to be the person who says, shut up. You're all wrong. Shut up. Everybody keeps saying, essentially, yeah, come to Pathfinder. It's free. You don't have to pay for anything. If you get Path Builder, pay for it once, couple bucks, or just use Archives of Nethys, it's free, it's free, it's free, it's free, it's free. Nothing is free. Nothing is free. And by encouraging these people to come into the game and then not buy and not pay the people who wrote it, it's not free. Those people need sales in order to make money and to live. And by encouraging them and sort of instilling in them this narrative that they should never spend any money in this edition, I think is doing a horrible disservice to Paizo and to people who are trying to make a living off of this. And to see Paizo employees struggle with, you know, to make money while, you know, out of the generosity of the OGL and the generosity of Paizo to have this stuff available on Archives of Nethys and not be pay gated behind a subscription. I think it's crazy to then encourage these new players to not even go out and pick up a core rulebook or pick up a GMG. I think or pick up an APG. You know, if every one of these new players coming over from 5th edition, you know, oh, the Reddit is full of people who said they are going from 5th edition to 2nd edition. If every single one of those people was going out and buying a core rulebook and an APG, Paizo would have themselves a really nice year. All right, we got a super chat from Self-Confessed Cynic. Nah, bad take. It's like free-to-play games where you only need the 2% of whales to convert and buy literally everything. The free pitch is an excellent sell. Except it's not. What difference does it make to Paizo if a bunch of people are playing their game for free? No, I am a big believer. I think RPG books are woefully undervalued. I think people should be paying way more money for them. I've had the experience now to work with some people behind the scenes and see stuff. The margins are so small. I think Self-Confessed Cynic, I think you're completely wrong. This is not the free to play model at all. And I just don't think that that's right at all. I mean, there's, you know, when someone comes in and they're playing the game, you are stealing from the creators who put time and effort into play it. And then, you know, you're not giving them anything back in return. I just don't like it. You know, it's not a good, I don't think it's a good look. Yes, there are, you know, Therese, you say there are no whales in the RPG market. I don't know about that. But there definitely are people who will buy everything. But I just think that the idea that people who are encouraging people to come and benefit from other people's hard work and then not give them any money, I think is a horrible idea. In fact, I don't like that Archives of Nethys is free. It's fine. It's cool that it's not. I don't know. Maybe there should be you get a entry, a scanned copy when you buy a CRB or something. But honestly, like it's crazy to me that that people just kind of want to just screw Paizo out of money, I guess. So, and meanwhile, you got people who over there who are used to playing. Yeah, like if one D&D has a low entry yearly fee of $60 a year, which includes character builder and the VTT, I think people will give it a chance. I wouldn't disagree with you, except the problem is, like, that's great. Wizards of the Coast, this massive thing with this huge market, is going to end up being able to further monetize themselves, and now they're making $600 or $60 a year off a player who ordinarily they were making no money. I just don't think that's a great model at all. So, I mean, I get it. I get, there's what's the saying? Like, if you're worth it, never do it for free or something like that. I just think that this is a foolish concept, and I think that it's out there. There's nothing that can be done about it, but encouraging people to come to the game just because it's free, like, yeah, Lampley, love it. Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? And, if that's the only reason that people even want to play the game, if the idea is, well, I wouldn't play the game if it wasn't free. It's like, ugh, really? So I just don't like this, because we're entering into a dangerous part of the development cycle. So we talked about this before. What does peaking mean? Well, I don't think the player base is peaked. In fact, I think the player base is going to be, on the upswing, because you're going to have a ton of people coming in from 5th edition's Exodus as more and more stuff gets rolled out, unless they somehow do it and they crack it and they just make it into like the best thing ever. But like, the second thing is, in this world, I've seen this, and again, I have a Discord, I have a Patreon with 260 some people, most of whom play Pathfinder 2, and most of whom are pretty, invested into the game. And I am starting to see signs of product fatigue from a lot of them. And we are getting to the point in the life cycle where after 3 years of Pathfinder 2, we're at 23 classes, I think, maybe 22 classes. We had, the first year, boom, you had the 12 classes. Within 6 months, you had the APG, add an extra 5 classes, 2 in Secrets of Magic, 2 in Guns and Gears, 2 in Dark Archive, and now 1 in Rage of Elements. We are getting, if you were playing, and like, if you were a normal person and you actually played 1 to 20, and you started playing Age of Ashes when it first came out back in end of 2019, you might have played through maybe 2 campaigns by now. And that's if you were playing like the 1 to 20 AP, playing the character, doing the thing. Maybe one of your characters died, you made another one. So you've played 3 characters. It's like, at a certain point you go, how many classes do we even need in this system? How many ancestries do we need in this system? How many archetypes do you need in the system? And the answer is maybe as many as we have. We're just getting to a point where, look, the 5th best class or the 6th best idea that you have is usually not your best idea, right? Like, you kind of pick your low-hanging fruit early. The classes that have come out since then, it's like, now, I will say that there's a curveball in that the Thaumaturge, and even to a certain extent, the Psychic's not my cup of tea, but I can certainly see where they did some interesting game design things with it, is definitely an interesting take. I've said it before, I'm not a big fan of the Inventor or the Gunslinger or the Magus or the Inventor, but Thaumaturge and Psychic, I think, are interesting. Now, at this point in the game cycle, you've got 3 bestiaries plus extra stuff from third party. Like, do we need a bestiary 4? Do we need a bestiary 5? Honestly, probably not. And it's my understanding, at least we've seen this so far from the game, they aren't doing the traditional splat type books that they've done in the past. Now, maybe they will, but I think a lot of people look at splats, as sort of a kind of not a good sign. I also love that Derek, self-admittedly terrible at business, is pitching business models. No, I know what makes a successful business. I just do the opposite of it, because for me, I don't have to make money, but Paizo doesn't have that luxury. I am telling you that they need to sell books in order to stay in business. And I'm promising you that whenever some new book comes out, the number of people who are going to buy it is smaller than the number of people who bought books in the past, because they're going to say, I don't need the 7th book of classes. I already have 6 books of classes, 5 of which I have never even played even once. Are there people who are going to buy every single book and they're going to buy it in the collector's edition and they're going to, yes, of course there are, but that's not everybody. And that's certainly not the standard market. They need people to buy books. It's the only way that they can sell and stay in business. It just doesn't make any difference to them. And so we have seen time and time and time again, why do you think 3.5 came out? Because they wanted to fix the rule set? I mean, sure, maybe, but it was because they realized we sold all the core books that we were going to sell. And we need to come out with more books. The only other option is to go like, the 4th edition route, where you come out with new hardcovers all the time, more feats, more powers, more classes, and then just the system gets big and bloated, out of control. But again, they have said that, we've seen this in the evidence. We have not seen a book of, here's a book of a bunch of new fighter powers. Here's a book with a bunch of new rogue rackets. We haven't seen that, of fighter feats. I said fighter powers, but that's to me the craziness of it. And I just, when I think about Paizo selling books as we enter into year 4, and you look at like what's on the schedule right now, we've got Treasure Vault and Rage of Elements. And I think to myself, yeah, of course there's people who are going to buy that, but is everybody playing Pathfinder 2 going to buy that? No. So, and if the new people coming in aren't buying core rule books because of your free to play model, and that's good for the business, which it's not. So where are they making their money from? And, at this point and then if you're one of these people who've been like, oh, I've bought every AP, great. How many APs have come out for Pathfinder 2nd edition now? Is it 8? Is it 9? You have enough adventure pass to last you the next 10 plus years. So at a certain point, you don't need more APs either. I've always thought that the adventure path model was so screwed up, because the adventure path should come out at a rate at which people could play them. But because eventually people say, well, I don't need, there's the collectors, I get it, who need to have everything. But for a lot of people, they say, I have enough APs. Okay. I don't need more. I have 6 sitting on my shelf, and I've played through 1, 1.5. Now, Aaron's is talking about the Lost Omens books. And I think that for the people who enjoy the Lost Omens books, they are particularly well done. There's a lot of text in those books, but I don't know. I don't have access to their sales data, but I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of people in the space who do not buy the Lost Omens books. Just my general knowledge and sense and many, many years of being in the D20 space, the fact is that those books tend to underperform compared to something like an APG. And so Paizo needs to make money. And if you got a bunch of people who are coming into the game and they all buy new core rule books and APGs and Dark Archives, that's great. That's great for them. But if they don't, because everybody's telling them it's free and they shouldn't bother buying stuff, and if everybody who's been playing the game is sort of starting to get a little burnt out, like, you know what? I haven't even gotten through the core rule book and the APG yet. Maybe I don't need to pick up Rage of Elements and the Kineticist. It's kind of like, okay, well, Paizo needs to sell books in order to make money. So in terms of like their profitability, has that peaked? Maybe. We got a bunch of people here in chat saying, never thought about buying Lost Omens, disappointed with the Lost Omens books. And that is true. Lost Omens is not on Archives of Nethys. And Theo buys them and lets them sit unread on the shelf. Now, to be fair, from Paizo's perspective, I suppose, I mean, I'm sure they would like for you to read them, but from a bottom line perspective, it doesn't really matter whether you do or not, as long as you purchase them and buy them. I love, this is very funny. Bill M. I have Lost Omens and I've never read a single one. That's pretty crazy. Now Thrill, welcome. I don't know that I know your name there, Thrillkillix. The business model for Paizo needs to invest heavily in Foundry VTT and invest in game systems and perks for players for the GMs to use, which could include a subscription model like Xbox Live. I don't know that Thrillkillix is wrong. Pathfinder 2 players seem to be on the cutting edge of the VTT and more. And I've heard so many people in my own Patreon, as well as out there in the internets, say Pathfinder 2 is almost made for the VTT because it is a fairly complex game and there's a lot of conditions and a lot of numbers and a lot of tracking. And so, yeah, maybe, but maybe people will poo-poo them. People seem to hate it when tabletop role-playing game companies, whether they're a big corporation or a small one, make money. They always feel like they owe them something for free and they should never have to pay for it. So it's pretty crazy. To be honest, player content seems to be the smart content to make. Look, I'm the smallest possible YouTube content creator, and I could tell you, when I make content that is player-focused versus when I make content that is game master-focused or sort of more generically focused, the player-focused content always sells like gangbusters. And if we go back to to 3rd edition D&D or 4th edition D&D, and yeah, I guess even 5th edition D&D, you would get a book come out like Dungeon Master Guide, Monster Manual, and then you would get a book for fighters, a book for wizards, a book for monks, a book for druids, a book for rogues, right? You would get all these player-focused books. I mean, that even goes back to 2nd edition, where you had like 4 or 5 of the blue books, like Campaign Source Book, Creative Campaigning, Catacombs Guide Source Book, and then you had like 15 of the red covered books, the player's option series, with the kits and all that other stuff. So yeah, it's like selling to players makes way more sense. There's going to be 4 or 5 times as many players. And so, I hope Paizo figures out a way to sell it, but it's, again, I mean, I can't say for sure, but I mean, generally speaking, in my experience, the quality of books goes down as the editions wear on. I care. Maybe it's burnout. Maybe it's fatigue. But I find that the material that comes out, with the exception of books that are highly experimental, often sort of beta tests of new ideas that are going to be in the next edition of the game, those could be really fun and exciting. Like, think Pathfinder Unchained. That was a great book from PF1. But they were testing ideas from Pathfinder 2, and they were putting in all sorts of crazy hybrid classes that they would normally have never put in there, like the Rage Mage or the Blood Mage or whatever it was called. Awesome class, right? If you go back to the end of 3rd edition, you had books like Book of Nine Swords, which is incredible because they were trying to play test some stuff for 4th edition. But if you look at some of the other stuff at the end, we got a super chat from Self-Confessed Cynic. Smart idea could be a kind of Lost Omens for players, i.e. not on Nethys. Got it. Well, yeah, I mean, you got to find something that the players got to buy. I don't know what that is. But what would a player do with a Lost Omens book, Vin? I don't understand. With player options, and it's not on Nethys. But see, I think then people will complain that it's not on Nethys. I mean, I already hear people complaining that when there are player options in Lost Omens books. I mean, some people want to keep their peanut butter and their chocolate completely separate, right? Thank you, always AFK Blood Rager. Bob played a Blood Rager in one of our PF1 games. I think Bob's only played Pathfinder 1 once, and he played a Blood Rager. Such a cool class. I would love to play a BO9S plus Psionics 3.5 game. Yeah, that would be pretty crazy. What would a player buy that a GM wouldn't buy for their whole group? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a great question, Sean. And Boothby makes a great point, too. Players' options goes into Super Splatbook PF1 territory, and I don't like it. And that is exactly what happened in Pathfinder 1. And, you know, speaking as someone who owns all the Pathfinder 1 books, like, I thought, you know, the first couple of Ultimate Magic, Ultimate Combat, those were great books. Ultimate Equipment was a great book. Ultimate Campaign, Ultimate Intrigue, Ultimate Wilderness, Ultimate Occult Adventures, right? Like, they got worse as things went on. And, you know, you have these iconic classes, and maybe they're just iconic because they've been around since 1974. But, you know, I didn't give a shit about any of the classes that came out at the end of the edition of the game. Right? It wasn't like, I don't care. I just don't care. These classes aren't the defining thing for us in sort of TTRPG fantasy. And I don't know that, you know, a number of people are, you know, really looking to do it. The Vigilante, please. The Batman, that class was stupid. I don't like it. And I think now it's just an archetype. Because then now you look at a class in Pathfinder 2 and you say, why the hell isn't this class just an archetype? You know, I don't know. We got a lot of good things in here. Hey, I just want to say thank you, by the way, to everybody for showing up tonight, supporting the channel. A lot of you are patrons, so you know that you guys are the goats. I'm gonna plug this a couple times. I'm gonna plug this again, but a couple of cool things. Number one, we are having a special bonus stream this Saturday, so that's the 17th. We are going to be talking about Fate, the role-playing game. We're going to be joined by John B., who is a Fate expert, Fate master, and who has graciously donated a couple of copies of the Fate core rulebook that we're going to be giving away on the stream to somebody who shows up and wants to learn about Fate and talk about Fate, understand what Fate does well. Maybe we can talk about what Fate doesn't do so well. So we're going to be doing that on Saturday because, again, it's the holidays. Times are really tough. So we're just going to, instead of taking over a stream, we're just going to put in a bonus stream. So we're going to be talking about Fate. We're going to be giving away Fate hardcovers and getting those out to you. That'll be awesome. And then a week from today, next Thursday, we're going to be doing the Poppet Christmas special, the Poppet Christmas Spectacular. And we are going to be doing another, if you enjoyed the Leshy stream, Fistful of Flowers, this one's for you. It's going to be a lot of crazy. It's going to be a lot of nonsense. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to plug that again, but you know, let's, I just wanted to put that out there and remind everybody, Saturday, we usually don't stream. So this is sort of a heads up and we'll be back. And I'll make sure I get that, you know, the thumbnail and the thing on the channel launched early so you can remember it and you can click the little bell and whatever like that. So, all right, moving back into it. All right. So self-confessed cynic loves splat books. And of course he does. He would be the player who absolutely would and would buy them. And that is that none of that even surprises me in the slightest. So, but you also enjoy the game being complex as possible and flipping through hundreds of tomes of manuals. Rick hates being nickeled and dimed to death. I prefer to it be all included in one core book. And so far, to the most part, I mean, I think Pathfinder 2 has delivered on that. So I think that's pretty great. Let's see. And of course, loves them because they're broken and stupid and dumb. So again, I think the issue here is Ninebreaker 2. Why isn't everything other than the fighter an archetype? So if patrons are goats, what are we non-patrons called then? You're just potential goats. Go Simply Go. It's just potential goats. Are we going to do an OSE one as well? Damien, I don't know. I mean, OSE, is there a lot to talk about there? I don't know. Have you thrown in the towel on all? Of course I haven't thrown in the towel on archetypes. I never quit, Trevco. Never. But, you know, I think you can agree. It's been a little rough on my mental health to try to go through some of those archetypes. It's just some of these archetypes are just so bad. They're just so bad. So I wanted to just, we'll pick it up, probably maybe in the new year we'll finish up. But I wanted to have some just fun, lighthearted holiday streams. And so here we are talking about it. Poppets, great. I hate them. Well, Gabriel, you're going to want to show up because all the players are going to be Poppets. And they're going to be trying to take over Christmas and ruin it for everybody. I will be representing the forces of Santa Claus. And the chat will have the ability to rain unholy fire and devastation upon these dastardly Poppets, these horrible toys gone bad, so that we can destroy them and save Christmas. So I hope to see you there. So... you wanted to do this, Papa. I actually did not. I mean, look, I anytime I am forced to do something I hate, people seem to love it. So, I mean, from that perspective, for you, I will go through it, Cindaria, but that's okay. Errant, John and I were talking about this just the other day. Starblazer Adventures is actually where I had known about Fudge and Fate from earlier. But Starblazer Adventures is actually where I initially, and Spirit of the Century are where I got my introduction to Fate. And in fact, when John and I were first talking about Fate, there was a little miscommunication. And it's because I was still operating on that sort of Fate 3 model, and John was operating on the Fate 4, the Fate Core model. So we'll talk about it. I actually prefer new editions every few years. Controversial take, people, from Self-Confessed Cynic. And I agree with it. I didn't hate 3.5. I like to buy books. I like my books to be better. Look, we are all playing Pathfinder 2. We've been playing for 3 years maybe, or maybe you've only been playing for a couple months. But I promise you, you know more now than you did at the beginning. The writers of these books, they don't have the QA staffs some of these video games have. They don't really know what they have until they put it out into the wild and until they see it get played by hundreds of thousands of people. And, I mean, it's crazy to me that the core rulebook, which I picked up at Gen Con 2019, is still the core rulebook that I'm using. Has the game changed? Absolutely. Has my perception of the game changed? Absolutely. I want to support Paizo. I like good games. I like better games. I like iterative design. So if they came out with a Pathfinder 2.5, would I buy it? In a heartbeat. Would I be happy about it? In a heartbeat. Because now I get to keep playing the same game, except better, with understanding that's been learned from 3 years of constant design iteration, constant playing. That, to me, I would rather do that than get the crap that we get at the end of a life cycle, right? I really appreciate, like, for example, a great example of this is third edition, 3.5. In third edition, you came out with Sword and Fist, Defenders of the Faith, Tome and Blood, Masters of the Wild, Song and Silence. These were the splat books for the rogues and the fighters, and they were pretty bad. They weren't really great. And then a couple years later, 3.5 came out, and they changed some stuff. And then they came out with another set of books. This time it was called Complete Warrior and Complete Arcane and Complete Scoundrel, maybe. And guess what? I thought they were better books. They were better books. And, I think, Sheppy here says a great point. More errata, more changes than a revised edition, right? We always have this problem, right? That the books get out of date and the errata starts to build up. And companies are afraid to do errata because they don't want to invalidate the books that are out there on print. Because if you release a ton of errata, you're basically telling your audience, especially your people who might have been coming to the game and Archives of Nethys, and then they're telling you that it's free and you should use Archives of Nethys, but then they also tell you, don't bother buying the core book. It's out of date. Just use what's on Nethys. The core rule book is pretty out of date. Horrible, right? That's even worse. Don't buy the book. It's out of date. So we don't want to do that. But then the alternative is Paizo says, well, we're not going to kill our core rulebook, so we're just never really going to release errata. Maybe a couple that like must have releases just because the game is fundamentally broken. But we're just not really going to do a lot of errata releases because we don't want to ruin people's collections, which is how people view it. And I get it. People are very particular to that, but that's why you come out with a 2.5 or a 2.25 or a 2.75. I think that is the best possible solution, because then people are getting the best product available at the time. And guess what? You are getting an insane value on one of these books. Like, you're paying $70 or $60 or $65 for a core rule book, and you pay $20 to go to the movies for 2 hours. You get hundreds of hours of play out of this stuff. It's outrageous. It's crazy. And I think that they should do that. And I think that is the best solution for me. I personally would love to be able to do that. Now, I see some people in chat asking, what would I change for a 2.5 or 2E unchanged? I have no idea. But, Frostjack says, I don't want to be playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition in 5 years. I agree. Not because it's a bad game, but because we learn, games develop. The game, think about it this way. Some of these games have life cycles of 8 years, 9 years. Think about the video games that you were playing 8 or 9 years ago. Is anybody really happy that where everybody's still playing Skyrim and GTA, whatever, 5 or whatever? Don't you want new games? Don't you actually want evolution? Don't you want improvements? Of course you do. We want to see these things. So it's like, yeah, I'm fine with that. And look, I buy a lot of other RPG books, but this is a relatively cheap hobby. And I think that's really important to respect.
Tip $25. Hot take. PF 2.5 should get rid of in-cap. Fighting bosses is when you need those things most.
Henry with the $25 tip. Hot take says PF 2.5 should get rid of in-cap. I actually have a thought on that, and we'll get to that in a second. I want to do this super chat real quick. Self-confessed cynic, a 4 to 5 year edition cadence, preferably 4 would be fire. I am totally in agreement. Okay, self-confessed cynic, I am 100% in agreement. We just came through the 3rd year of Paizo, of Pathfinder 2. So, right, 2019 was year 1. 2020, year 2. 2021, 2019 into 2020 was year 1. 2020 into 2021 was year 2. 2021 into 2022 is year 3. And now we are entering into the 4th year. Rage of Elements comes out at Gen Con 2024 or 2023. I would love it if it was Pathfinder 2.5 or Pathfinder 2.25 or something. I would love it. That would be so much. I would think that would be fantastic. Like I would be really happy about that. And instead, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Look, I think the design of Thaumaturge and Psychic is great. In fact, if anything, you all should be upset. I'm happy because with the Psychic and the Thaumaturge, they are doing stuff that they never do in Pathfinder or Pathfinder 2E, and which is make classes that have more of an effects-based design, that are more gamist in nature, that sort of shit on simulationism. And I think those classes are great because those classes, to me, are much more interesting and much more playable. Now, to get to Henry's point about getting rid of in-cap, I think you can get rid of in-cap, just put it on the critical failure. Some spells in Pathfinder 2 already do this, where the spell itself doesn't have incapacitation, but the critical failure result generates another save. And like Phantasmal Killer is one of these. That effect can have the incapacitation. If you really don't want people to ever be able to, one-shot kill a boss. But I do think it's a bit silly that, these creatures or whatever can't fail these spells. So, because the incapacitation just upgrades it by one category. Their saves are already so high, it doesn't really even matter. But I do think it's a little bit, now, Vin's getting crazy here. Says we should remove incapability, instead give monsters burn abilities like our boss designs. I'm not opposed to that, but I do think that it's going to be too gamist for where Pathfinder will ever end up in any sort of modern sense. I think that the D20 DNA is too tied to where we're at, that I don't think that they're going to be able to get to it. Legendary Resistance, I understand, is hated. Strat, I understand it's hated. Because I don't like the way that Legendary Resistances work at all. So, and then there's me here still playing WoW, League, and old BioWare RPGs. Right, but you can't argue, Captain, that WoW has seen a lot of revisions and changes and whole overhauls of the talent trees and all the systems and the raid mechanics many, many times over the years. But at the same time, it also used to have what? I don't know, 60 million subs, and now it probably has like a couple million. I don't know. So clearly the bloom is off of the rose there. Okay. Frostjack would prefer 5 to 4, but that's fine. I mean, I think Vin said 4 to 5 years. I think anything in there depends on your development cycle and your life cycle. But all I know is that once we reach this 3-year point, this 4-year point, I've done this with 2nd edition D&D, 3rd edition D&D, 3.5 edition D&D, 4th edition D&D, Pathfinder 1, not really 5th edition because I wasn't playing it, but I can tell you, I own, the first couple of years of 5th edition products. I own, Player's Handbooks, Anathark Guide, all that other stuff. Do I own anything that's come out in the last couple of years? No, because at a certain point you go, I just don't care anymore. Like they are not coming out with anything that is really innovative or new or exciting, because if they was, they would have already done it, and or it's too revolutionary, it's too new, and they don't want to rock the boat. The only time they ever want to do that is when you get to right towards the end of an edition and they're starting to prep and sort of lay the sort of the foundation for the next edition. And then you get some potentially really interesting ideas out of the game system. So it's very messy to that end. Let's see. Anything, Casey says, anything that comes out in the last 2 to 3 years is basically unusable. But also, too, like, I think the designers understand that. They go, look, why would I save my best ideas for the end of the life cycle of a product when I understand that a lot of people are going to skip it? It's almost like kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They don't want to they don't want to do their best stuff at the end when hardly anybody's ever going to get a chance to play it. This was like, I was watching Pro Jared the other day, and he was talking about Final Fantasy IX, and he said it's his favorite Final Fantasy, and a lot of people have said that it's their favorite Final Fantasy, and it was an incredible game. So why don't more people talk about this game? Well, because it came out I think in the last month before the PS2 launch, and people were just not interested in PS1 games anymore. They were over that, and so the game came out, nobody was buying PS1 games, you're getting psyched for your PS2 game, and FFX was coming out much, much quicker. So, yeah, I mean, that is why that game kind of got left behind. And the same thing could be true for books that come out late in the edition of the game. Let's see. PF2, okay, we're talking about strategy, gamist and simulationist. I don't want to get into that too much today. Although it was one of the most devastating realizations that you had in the game, okay. Yeah, it's called Compromise. 1,000% on 5e not innovating. My group, fairly hardcore players, basically bi-weekly for 5 years, are moving to PF2E because they haven't done anything exciting at all of late. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, 5e has just been the most uninnovative system, and that's saying something coming from me. Because again, I like that they're doing some of these things in Pathfinder 2. I don't think they're done yet. I'm not even trying to say that they are. Because that's the other thing we've talked about. We talked about, have the players peaked? No, I think we're going to get a ton of new players from 5th edition and 1 D&D, 6th edition. Has sales peaked? Who knows? Maybe. I'm detecting a lot of burnout. And if these new players aren't going to come in and really buy into the system, that could be problematic for Paizo. And so the third element of peaking is, has the design peaked? Are there going to be things that come out in the next year or 2 or 3 that are going to be like must-have buys? This is the best part of the game. They've nailed it. This is an incredible design. Now, normally I would say absolutely not. But Thaumaturge, great design. So, but playtest kineticist, yikes. But we'll see where we go with it. It's important. Greg C with a big $20 Canadian super chat. Disappointing that WotC can't think of new mechanics to create a 6th edition. I think Pathfinder has an opportunity to release a new and shiny Pathfinder 3 in 2 years. By then, all D&D players will be bored with the 5e mechanics. Now, I said this earlier this year on a live stream. People shouted me down. They said, there's no way this is happening. I think I got shit on in Reddit for this. But I said, if Paizo was smart, okay, they would drop a new edition of Pathfinder. Like, we know 6th edition D&D, and I mean, they don't have the time. I get it. Like, it's too late. But they could have started doing this a year ago. They know that 6th edition D&D is going to come out in 2024. And if a 3rd edition of Pathfinder was coming out, like right before the switchover, or right around the same time, I think that would be the best move for them. Because I think that you capitalize on all the people who are really disappointed. And, you know, move on. Or as Greg's saying, the people who just come into, you know, the 6th edition era, and they go, you know what, this is boring. This is not what I want. If Paizo is standing by in 2025, a year later, to say, guess what? Here's Pathfinder 3rd edition. And it's sort of a welcoming, like, hey, we'll all be starting from a brand new edition. Like, I think that would be really, really smart of them. And it would help them sell a lot of books. Now, of course, they can't talk about this because the reason why game companies can never talk about it is because if they say that they're going to start doing a new edition, you're going to immediately stop buying their books today. And they need cash flow to get from now to then. So, you know, it's kind of a catch-22. And furthermore, imagine that you worked at Paizo, okay? And you know that you guys want to make a new edition because you can't talk about it because that'll fuck up your cash flow for the next 2 years. But they'll tell you still need to be releasing Pathfinder 2 books. Well, all your best ideas and coolest new ideas, right? You're probably going to be saving those for the new edition of the game. And so, like, you're kind of getting the chaff. You're not getting the wheat. You're kind of getting the cast-offs. Sometimes you get little glimmers of potential areas of design, like Book of Nine Swords. But for the most part, you know, it's usually not so great. So I would say that the thing that I'm the most worried about in terms of has Pathfinder 2 peaked, not the game itself. There's a lot of life in the game. You could play this game for 10 years. Literally, I've seen some of these fucking characters that people make on Path Builder. You could play this game for 10 years and never make the same character twice. That's not an issue. But in terms of have they done with the system what they could do with the system, part of me feels that yes, they have. Now, I have yet to review Treasure Vault, and the playtest kineticist was a dumpster fire, but, you know, they always do that so that people go, oh, it was bad, and then they release it, and maybe it's not good, but people go, but it's better, and then they get excited about it, right? If they released a bomb playtest and then they just reeled it back, people would be really, really upset. So they always make their playtests bad, and then when they release, they are a lot more powerful and better because then people get really excited about them. Thaumaturge might be the example, the exemption, because it was cool in the playtest and it was cool on release too. But yeah, I think that I think you play it healthfully for a long time. But in terms of what's going to be coming out over the next couple of years, I got to be honest with you. I mean, it'll probably not be great. That's just the nature of the beast. Vin, by the way, apologize if I missed some of your messages. I try to get to all my people with loyalty badges. But I apologize if I did miss you. Vin says, imagine waiting another 2 years for Pathfinder 2.5. I can see myself just switching to freaking Emberwind or something just for a change of pace. Oh, you're going to have to, buddy. I mean, I mean, to be fair, in 4 years or 5 years, I would like to see Pathfinder 3. I would love to have seen Pathfinder 2.5 like next year or like 2023. Like that would have been awesome. But we're probably not going to see that. Damien confirming that 9 is their favorite. It's his favorite PS1 Final Fantasy. So of 7, 8, and 9, it's his favorite. 7 used to be my favorite, but as time has gone on, I have liked it less and less. So maybe 9 is my favorite. PF2 does have starvation rules. People just ignore them. Yes, because nobody cares about that. They think they care about that, but they don't care about that. Oh, wow. KC says the same thing. Teenage Kieran would say that FF7 was the best, but adult Kieran knows better. Yes, exactly. Let's see. A lot of people are into 5e for the critical role element. It won't translate to PF2e. Now, that is interesting, White Computer Power, because I don't agree with that at all. There is nothing fundamentally in Pathfinder 2 that is very different from 5th edition in that respect. Role-playing has little to do with the system, and especially when you're going hours without rolling dice. You could do that in 5th edition just as easily as you could do that in Pathfinder 2. The main difference, as I understand it, for people in between Pathfinder 2 and 5th edition is in 5th edition, most of your character choices are fairly baked in to the class, and that's why a lot of people multi-class, so that you get a lot of distinctive difference between your character. But even then, there's certain builds that people like. Whereas in Pathfinder 2, most of your class features are in feats, and you get to pick from them. Now, yes, there are some that are better than others, potentially, but you get a lot of choices. And the second thing is the encounter math in Pathfinder 2. The balance of numbers is very, very tight. Some might say it's too tight, but as a GM, you can be pretty sure if I throw X, Y, and Z monsters at party, my party, it's going to be this tough. And by this tough, what people really mean is they're not going to die, but it's going to, feel kind of tense. And that's what 99% of GMs want out of combat. Maybe that's not what I want out of combat, but that's what most GMs want out of combat. And for that point of perspective, Pathfinder 2 delivers. So, let's see. The best stuff in PF1 was at the end, Unchained and Advanced Class Guide. But see, Damien, I would argue that Unchained is one of those examples of where you were basically seeing a play test of PF2. And I don't agree that the Advanced some of those classes were cool, but some of them were not cool. So, I think that's important to note. All right. We got a couple super chats that just came in. We got Self-Confessed Cynic. Real main difference between D&D Beyond and real main difference is D&D Beyond and Inertia. Yeah, that is definitely the case. D&D Beyond is a monolith in the sphere. Paizo's supposed to have Pathfinder Infinite, right? That's supposed to be it. So they should be able to do that. $50 from El Duderino. Always happy to catch a stream. Keep it up, Derek. Given how cool the Thaumaturge and Psychic have been, I hope we get to see more of where PF2 is headed. That, my friend, is the only hope, to quote Paramore. It's the only hope I have. The only hope I have that's keeping me alive. Again, I have gotten great play experiences out of Pathfinder 2. Happy with the classes that are in there. There are still wizards and sorcerers and druids and rogues and that I would love to make and play and have fun with. And I'm sure have some really incredible, adventures with. And choose some cool feats and do some cool things. So it's not important to me that we continue to get good stuff. Normally, I would actually be very negative about the future of design at Paizo in Pathfinder 2's case. But Dark Archive did have two very interesting classes. And I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but they stepped back from simulationism and they leaned into gamist mechanics for these two classes. That is a very D&D 4th edition concept. And the Psychic is a very 4th edition feeling type character. And say what you will about 4th edition's design, it was exciting to play. And normally I would never have expected to see those kind of class mechanics. Kineticist, looking like it's going to be a class which is able to attack with their constitution, right? That is, again, not something I would have expected to see in Pathfinder 2, given what we have seen for the last 3 years. But Thaumaturge comes out, and suddenly it's using charisma for esoteric lore. It can, clerics and druids can't even, as a free action, pull out their divine focus to cast a spell. But the Thaumaturge can. If the Thaumaturge is holding their weapon implement, but wants to use a reaction with the mirror. They can, as a free action, basically put the sword away, pull out the mirror, use the reaction, put the mirror away, put the sword out. It's like all part of the reaction. It's wild. And this is in a game where normally that would have taken you like, I don't know, 7 interact actions to do. But the thaumaturge just gets to do it. Because you know what? Maybe it's more important that the class just kind of works than if whether or not the actions are being balanced. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree. I share that hope as well. But I do want to go back to what Self-Confessed Cynic said really quick, and then I'll get to this. We got a new super chat. All right. Yeah, I mean, D&D Beyond has a lot of momentum in it. People are bought in. There's something to be said about sunk cost fallacy. I mean, a lot of people's entire existence is built into D&D Beyond, and the idea of playing something in a non-digital realm, and like you said, the inertia, very hard to break. But, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, they came of age with 5th edition. Maybe they were very new to the hobby, or they had barely played, or maybe they've only ever played 5th edition. But I think they've stuck it out because you talk about the inertia. I think they stuck it out because they said to themselves, you know, maybe if we just hold out, maybe if we just wait, we are going to get the game that we want. And maybe they're starting to see that it's not going to be the game that they want. And, you know, they got pretty upset about it. All right. We got a $10 super chat from Ninebreaker2, who says, their apprehension to publishing more feats in separate books has really led to them dropping the ball with general and skill feat options. 100% agreed there, Ninebreaker2. 100% agree. I think we all agree with that. One of the most disappointing, even people who love Pathfinder 2 will admit that one of the most disappointing areas of the game has been the general feats and the skill feats. Those feel like they are have just been completely abandoned. And I think part of the reason that you've seen that is because they don't want to go back to the Pathfinder 1 model, where if I want to make my character, I need 17 books, right? I want to make a fighter. Cool. Well, you're going to need the core rule book. You're going to need Ultimate Combat. There might be some archetypes inside Ultimate Magic. There might be something inside Ultimate Equipment. There might be something inside, you know, where you need there's feats for your character in all of these books. So you need all of these books in order to be able to have access to everything that you need to make a character. And I think they don't want to publish, but if they did that, if they published more general feats in every book, then you would need every book in order to make a character.
Stratega tipped $3.16. PF2 peaked with the NR1 season finale.
Thank you, Strat, for that tip. And so, yeah, so Ninebreaker 2, I agree with you. I think that their mentality of not wanting to make it so that you need to buy all these books and that you need to have a bunch of books at the table has kind of hurt that part of the game. And by the way, this isn't the only area where we've seen this, right? Now, Treasure Vault is going to have things like some additional tattoos and stuff like that. But these are, what's another, what are they called? Spell Hearts was another addition that they, included in the game. And these things come out and you say, oh, this is really cool. I really want to be involved with this. But then they don't release more for it, because now you're suddenly telling everybody you have to buy all of them in order to be able to use just one of them. And they've avoided doing that. So we're seeing a little bit more of this with the Treasure Vault. But in terms of class feats and class features and class archetypes, it's been really crazy. So I agree with that. Bill says balance is overrated. And yet I feel like it is probably one of the most important things in Pathfinder 2's Divine. So it may be overrated, but Brutus, Treasure Vault will be interesting since this is a book about them revisiting existing systems and patching holes that they see that they left in the system. I agree with you, Brutus. I'm interested to take a look. I haven't cracked the PDF yet, but I've got it. And we're supposed to be maybe doing some sort of preview. So it'll be interesting. I am tentatively hopeful because they're not going to Grand Bazaar me twice, right? I had low hopes for Grand Bazaar because I was like, they are going to Lost Omens this, aren't they? And they did. So now I'm like, okay, well, this isn't Lost Omens. And we already got Lost Omens Ultimate Equipment. That was Grand Bazaar. So hopefully this is actual ultimate equipment or actual, adventurer's vault or, actual magic item compendium. That's what I want. I want magic item compendium. 3.5 magic item compendium. Sweet book. Blueberry. I love watching the streams after you're done due to schedules now, but just wanted to say it's been all bloat for me since Secrets of Magic. I love the idea of gunslinger, psychic, etc., but it's getting too much for me personally to keep up to date with everything. And I think that's true for all of us. I mean, there's a lot of people I know who can speak encyclopedically about a lot of the classes from the core rulebook. Oh, you should take this feat at 8. You should take this feat at 16. And then you mention the psychic. And these are hardcore PF2 players. And then you mention the psychic and they go, I haven't read it yet. I haven't actually got to it yet. I haven't read it yet. It's like, wow, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Damian Williams with the super chat. I do like when they do add class feats that are for specific campaigns instead of just flat power creep. Yeah. I mean, I think they could get better use out of the uncommon rare system. I mean, I think a lot of people look at uncommon and rare and they just go, oh, more shiny options. I don't care that my character makes absolutely no sense. I want to build some horrible monstrosity amalgamation abomination on Path Builder. But I do agree. I mean, I think that's a fun way to add flavor to any campaign. I mean, archetypes should do that, and class feats should do that, and they've done that. Quest for the Frozen Flame did that with a couple of things, and again, I thought that was done well. But unfortunately, those feats usually tend to suck. But the Aftermath system is almost a great system. I agree with you. It is almost almost. Like the Last Wall feats and some of them you'll see in the Book of the Dead and Dark Archives. They're okay. I could see where they could be a little frustrating because in some cases it's like, well, now you're just telling me you're publishing material and you're saying I can't use this unless I'm a member, unless I'm using Galarian and I'm a member of this organization. And what if I'm not? And now I'm buying this thing and it doesn't actually do anything for me. That's where I have a problem with it, Damien. I want to be able to use these things in my own instance. All right. So, well, we could talk more about this. We got some while to go. But I did want to talk about a little poll, a little survey that we had, which was, what is the most pathfindering thing in Pathfinder? Now, again, I've said this before, but, what I'm really saying here is what is the, what is the nature of this, question? It's the thing that makes you go, oh man, that is so Pathfinder too. You just know it when you see it. Okay. Where you say, this thing is definitely from Pathfinder 2. All right. So we're going to take a look at this. All right. So we're going to get to this in a minute. Brune says, indeed, everything peaks at some point. Popularity of things normally have waves, high points and low points. Agree. Yes, absolutely. Everything goes up, everything goes down. But I think there are things that you can do within the game space in order to compete against that and keep the game fresh and not be afraid to experiment when the game gets kind of long in the tooth, and also not be afraid to create a new edition when the game has run its course. And instead of being afraid of a new edition, you just keep kind of keeping the corpse alive. Now, again, Pathfinder 2 is only 3 years old. I'm not trying to say that the corpse is that it's a corpse. I'm simply saying, have we seen maybe what's best in the edition so far? Now, there's some people, I would argue that there's some elements of that would make you say, yes, that is a good thing, because it means we get the longest amount of time to play with the best stuff in the edition. That is a valid point. I won't argue that. But it also means, it kind of sucks to be disappointed by some of the things that are going to keep coming out after this. All right. So the idea here was people were going to submit. We'll talk in the chat. I'll have some ideas, but we'll do some polls about what is the most Pathfindery thing in Pathfinder. All right. So our first submission is Cybersmith, and they have given us a feat. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this feat. Oh, okay. This feat is Reveal Machinations. It is a rare. It's from Age of Ashes. It's a skill feat. You have to be legendary in deception, and it's a 15th level skill feat. You reveal that you played a minor but reoccurring role in another humanoid's life. Spoilers for Age of Ashes. You reveal that you played a minor but reoccurring role in another humanoid's life, or at least convince them that that's the case. So it may not even be true. Attempt a deception check against the target's will DC. On a success, they become frightened 2. On a crit, they're frightened 3. In addition, you gain information about the subject as if you had recall knowledge about them. You can't use this ability against the humanoid again until 1 day has passed and you've successfully disguised yourself as a different person. So, hey, we got a super chat from Self-Confessed Cynic who says, shout out to the 3.5 MIC, Magical Item Compendium. Sweet book. Vin knows about the good 3rd edition books. 3.5 was a sweet edition. They had some really great books there, especially towards the end. Yeah, so this is gaslighting, and this is very weird. I've been there all along. I'm lying, of course, but it's a deception to frighten them too. What a weird, strange feat. This is definitely strange that this is even a feat that exists. This is so specific. I don't know if this is the most Pathfinder 2 thing that I've ever seen, but it is definitely weird and it's definitely awkward. And I love that, like, this is the kind of caliber of stuff. 15th level, that's 8th level spells. So the wizard can now, without a save, send people to extraplanar dimensional prisons. This, you can go, I was the one who caused you to fail your SAT, and I was the reason you didn't get into Harvard. And they'll be like, that is on the same level. That and sending people to extra dimensional planar prisons. So also, Frightened 2 is not bad. So, it does stuff. Yeah, exactly. It does stuff. That's too good. All right. So cool option, but that is not going to be our winner. All right. Sorry, Cybersmith. All right. Next one from Donnie. What feat or rule of action thing? Hero points, just raw. Spend a hero point, reroll, get a 2. Now this is very simple, but this is a very good. This is a very great example of something that's very Pathfinder 2. Be a hero. Be awesome. All right, Derek. Tell me what I've got to do. Well, the gem is held aloft in a field of radiating energy. Arcane shields bounce against each other, shielding it from your assaults. I don't care. I'm going to take the legendary arrow of Mortuk, blessed by the god of the sun, and I am going to fit it to my bow, given to me by the elven queen for just such an occasion. Now, I am the best archer in the land. I only need a 7 to hit. Rolls a 5. Damn it. Well, that's okay. I'm a hero. A real hero. A true hero. I will re-roll with a hero point. All right, well, you're rolling that one, and I guess your bow breaks. I don't know. We're using the critical fumble deck, and yeah, your bow breaks and you're stunned too. Sweet. I feel like a hero. So by default, this is our current top runner, but I mean, I got to be honest with you. They should not be called hero points. They do not feel like hero points. Here's the key thing. Hero points do not help you do anything that you already can't do. Hero points are designed for one thing and one thing only. Okay. So that if you crit fail like a slow 2, being slowed, you can roll again. They are not designed to help push you beyond or to do something heroic. They are there as insurance points to keep you from doing something really unlikely or really horrible. So they're not, there's an implication there that it's like, oh, I only have a 20% chance. That's a perfect opportunity for me to use hero points. That's not the case. Hero points are more like, well, I only have a 5% chance of critically failing and getting really screwed over here. And then you happen to roll the nat 1 or maybe the 2 or 3 against a higher level foe. That's what hero points are for. So that's a good option from Donnie. All right, next one is from Vin. Self-confessed cynic in the chat. Because it started the whole thing. What is the most Pathfinder 2 thing? Blast lock. And of course, blast lock is probably literally, it is what started this whole thing about just absolutely ridiculous. This is an action that allows a gunslinger to shoot a gun at a lock and then make a pick the lock using an attack roll. Never minding any of the other combinations. Like, if I don't have this feat and I shoot the lock with my pistol, what happens? Now, that's one thing. Because you're like, aren't I blowing the lock apart? Why am I even rolling pick lock? Why does this even need to exist? Can't I just take my gun and shoot it at the lock and do damage to it and break it and then go through it? But here's the best part. It's that some locks require multiple successes to be picked. We know this. This is Pathfinder 2. And so if I get a success with my attack against the DC to pick the lock, by the way, the complexity of the lock to pick is the same DC as to shoot it. And those two things, by the way, should be not even close to being related. But if I do succeed, I open the lock, or I just get one success towards opening a complex lock. So if there's a lock which has 3 successes needed to pick it, I gotta cock my gun and blast it, and cock my gun and blast like several times to shoot it. By the way, I could also miss. What does that even mean? I missed. That doesn't even make sense. Like, I took my gun, I put it to the lock, I shot. What happened there? It doesn't even make sense. And of course, Strat saying the raw answer, of course, is that you can't actually target a lock with strike because strike does not allow you to target objects. Of course, that is the rule. That's the game. Strategy says, I kind of want Blast Lock to win just because this is a peak gamist rule with no concerns for simulationism. Roll for combat in here late. Did it peak? Roll for combat in summary. In player count, no. I think that's going to continue to rise over the next couple of years, thanks to people leaving 6th edition, 5th edition D&D. Did it peak in terms of Paizo sales? Maybe. I know a lot of people personally, as well as other people who are not buying as many books as they used to buy. And after 3 years, a lot of people are starting to get burnout. Plus, if the new people joining go to Archives of Nethys, everybody's telling the new people coming over, hey, Pathfinder 2 is free. Hey, Pathfinder 2 is free. Hey, go to Archives of Nethys. Don't pay any money. If everybody does that and doesn't buy books, that could be bad for Paizo's bottom line. And then the third question is, has the design of Pathfinder 2 peaked? And that is sort of an upward question. Because on one hand, we may have seen some of the, traditionally after a couple of years, we see some really great stuff, and then the best ideas are sort of tapped out. I personally believe that we've seen that with all the other editions of D&D. However, Dark Archives, Psychic, Thaumaturge were really exciting. And I don't know, possibly that could be a really good sign that maybe we are in for some surprises from Paizo when it comes to innovative, clever, exciting design that is going to continue to come out in the books to come. To say nothing of what third-party publishers might publish. I did not hear that, Phoenix, that 6th edition is looking to not have the OGL. So that's interesting. I did not know that. I don't know that that's true, though. Greg is saying that might not even be true. Yeah, I don't think they might want to get away from the OGL, but I don't know that they can. I mean, there's already some elements, right? All of 5th edition isn't released on the SDR. They can't pull back the OGL, but not everything in 5th edition is released in the SRD. So, there's that. Right, Kineticist is coming, Blue Moon God, but we don't, we'll see how it works, right? Like, we don't know. All right, so Blast Lock is our current winner because Blast Lock is just such a Pathfinder 2 thing. Right up there with Demolition Charge, where you go, why is this even a feat at all? All right, so Vin currently in the lead. All right, Lazarus Dark says the radiation trait. So we've got the radiation trait. If you look it up, it's on Nethys. It has a source. There is no description for this trait. This trait has no description and nothing linked to it. Now, if you go to the Strength of Thousands AP, where this is seemingly coming from, it's technically a trait on a monster ability, and technically the ability kind of describes what the trait is, and there's a sidebar kind of discussing it, but not exactly defining it. So really, it has no official description. It literally is a do-nothing trait. And there you go. The radiation trait, it's in the game. It does nothing. It exists for no reason. Now, I mean, maybe they were going to do something with it. I mean, Pathfinder 2 does love its traits. So it's very important, by the way, that every time anybody uses any ability, you got to look up every trait, because you never know. I mean, I get people who play this game basically every day, all the time, and I'll go, "Oh, that is the death trait," and they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, look up what the death trait says. It says if you kill them with the death trait, they go to 0, they're just dead." And they're like, "Well, I didn't even know that." So this is pretty wonky and weird, but I don't know if this is like, when I think of a Pathfinder 2 cringy roll my eyes thing, I don't know that this is, is the peak of it. This is definitely weird and this is definitely bad, but I'm going to say that this might be in the top contenders, but we'll put this one into the poll. All right. So, all right. So, most PF2 thing in PF2. So our poll right now has Blast Lock and it has Radiation Trait. Okay. All right. Continuing on. So good choices, but moving on. All right, Gid. Changing my answer to Anchor Root. That is all. Now, Anchor Root is, of course, this completely and totally cringe Knoll from Strength of Thousands, with, of course, this horrible, horrible description, most well known for interrupting herself halfway through a presentation to exclaim, "I'm sorry, I'm boring you," and then running out of the room crying. Now, this is going to go straight on my list because, number one, it's a Knoll, and Knolls are just bad guys. I'm sorry. And they try to make it in Pathfinder 2 that it's really cute that they eat the dead or anything like that. But come on, this is a game of heroic fantasy adventure. Why are we running out of the room crying? It's too much. It's too much. This is, but here's the thing. This is a Derek cringe. This isn't a Pathfinder 2 cringe. As much as this would go to the top of my list, I will give honorable mention to Anchor Root. And by the way, if somebody would know something about Gid, no, I think Gid loves it, Bob. I actually think Gid loves it. I just think Gid knows that I would personally hate it. So I do respect that he's playing the game. So I will consider this, but it's not currently the most. All right, Asayan says, oh, this one is really good. The fact that the Bane weapon rune, so we all know what Bane weapon runes are, right? They do extra damage to the creature that you're baned against. Doesn't work on creatures that is disguised. I know why they did it, so that GMs could keep a creature's identity secret, but this is by far the most stupid thing I have come across, not to mention the in-world size effects. There's no reason why creatures wouldn't be disguised every day for no reason other than this. And Asayan is correct. I did look this up. If the Bane rune, I typed Bane. There we go. I found it anyways. Good on you, Nethys. It does cause 1d6 additional damage. You choose Aberration or Animal or Beast or Celestial or Dragon. But this benefit does not apply against creatures of the chosen type that are disguised as other creatures. So if you have a Dragon Bane rune on your weapon and you attack a dragon, but that dragon is currently disguised as a fungus or a ooze, your Bane weapon will not do extra points of damage. Yeah, that is, Okay. This benefit doesn't apply against creatures of the chosen type disguised as other creatures. Well, it doesn't specifically say creature type. It's up to the GM's discretion whether the Bane rune applies against a creature disguised as a creature of the chosen type. So, yeah. Wow. This is literally that, Phoenix. The dragon has like a little hat on and a mustache and goes, "I'm not a dragon." And you go, "Oh, okay. Well, apparently my sword believes you too." That is unreal. They can just be disguised as another dragon. The Bane rune is just a placebo effect that makes you hit harder. Right, exactly. The Bane rune isn't actually, I believe that they're a dragon, but if I don't believe that they're a dragon, the Bane rune does nothing. This is horrible, and is going on the list, okay? Bane rune. This is unreal. What does this even mean? And I agree with Hasayan. Like, what is the in-game effect of this? Like, what is even happening here? How does the rune know what you know? It has a divination trait, for God's sake. Yeah, Phoenix, it has a divination trait. This is unreal. It's not even that they successfully disguise. It's seemingly that they just have a disguise. Oh boy. This is pretty bad. Yeah. Okay. But it's a simulationist game, people. Because gameism is bad. It's D20. We don't want any of that in our game. All right. That's a good one. It's going on the list. All right. London says, too long, didn't read. This is a long one here. The 3-pronged redundancy of early level Viking stuff. The Viking archetype has a feat that benefits off of raging, making you think that the archetype is a good choice for barbarians. But many other feats give weapon proficiencies a barbarian already has, and so they're useless. Furthermore, the Viking dedication grants you sailing lore, which you also get from Ulfin Raider, which is a background from Lost Omens World Guide. It doesn't mention what to do if you already have training, so raw, it doesn't give you any lore skill, just a benefit to movement in shallow water, and a success is crit success on swim checks. Lastly, Viking Shield Bearer gives you shield block and training in battle axe or longsword, both of which the barbarian already has. Meanwhile, you could just pick up shield block from Versatile Heritage and use natural ambition instead of Viking Shield Bearer to double down on a level 1 barbarian feat. So long-winded saying, if you want to dig in and make thematic and flavorful character-based choices, they overlap to actually end up giving you less than the sum of their parts. Well, that's pretty bad. I don't think it's the most Pathfinder 2 thing of all time, but a archetype not giving you basically giving you actually a subpar ability, and you would actually be better off making better choices to actually arrive at the same place for less or cheaper or for better is totally reasonable. I feel like this is pretty specific, but it is an example of where sometimes the archetypes go wrong. And it doesn't surprise me that the Viking archetype has a bunch of stuff which seems on the surface to make sense, but doesn't actually give you anything of real value or import. I agree with Gabriel. They don't put a lot of effort into many of the archetypes. What GM got hurt to cause this? All right. Next one. We got 19 of these. Min Andreas says, The Alchemist. The Alchemist class is the most Pathfinder 2 thing in Pathfinder 2. Here's the thing. I saw a high-level Alchemist in Northern Reaches do some pretty okay work. We gave it a higher ranking at higher level because we felt like they had the kind of versatility to be good at what they do. Obviously the Alchemist suffers from a lot of problems. It doesn't have the right, structure needed to support it, but it still at least fundamentally works and makes sense. And so while the Alchemist, I think, isn't a great class and has a lot of wonky things about it that are needlessly penalized, I don't think it makes our list here. And again, chat, let me know if you disagree. But all right, Fry Guy, Umbral Extraction, one of the classic feats that made me want to cry and die. Umbral Extraction is an incredibly complex, overwrought spell, which essentially accomplishes nothing. It is absolutely horrible of a spell. There's all this text, and you have to, it takes like 3 rounds to use this. You have to steal a spell. It's random. They take a totally insignificant amount of mental damage from the spell. Then after you steal the spell, it's random. You have to make a thievery check. This is just horrible. This is just horrible. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it should be really, really cool, but Umbral Extraction is really, really bad. Self-Confessed Cynic says, to be honest, Alchemist has problems, but works. Wonky things, needlessly penalizes. Sounds just like PF2. All right, you know what? I'll add it. Alchemist, it's added. Added to the list. All right. Is tattoo artist on this list? I don't know. We'll see. Umbral Extraction is horrible and bad, but I don't think it makes our list. It is horrible, though. Thank you, Fry Guy. All right, Jason. We got a spoiler alert here from Abomination Vaults. But I think this is a long way of saying, free a monster, it free wills, it rose a ghost, it's here, it has plans, it's blah, 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 blah. The creature, it notes the hero's intrusion immediately, however, and swiftly moves to confront them. The creature has no interest in negotiation. It attacks at once and fights to the death. Whew, boy. Now, that is not necessarily a Pathfinder 2 system thing, but come on. It attacks immediately. It fights to the death. How is that not on our list? It's got to be, right? It's got to be. It's got to be. All right. Oh, my God. So I'm going to put, we got Bane, we got Alchemist, we got Umbral, we've got Fight to the Death. Oh, I mean, that is just classic Pathfinder 2. All right, Strat. This action is backed by 3,300 words of the subsystem, uses traits to be non-obvious at how it works, and to top it all off, the math makes it so that options other than the one-action version are utterly pointless, entirely invalidating the entire affair. What are we talking about? Drive. The drive action. Oh, boy. We need the drive action. We need a rule for this. It's a move. You're piloting a vehicle. You spend a couple actions to attempt a piloting check. There's an entire subsystem. It uses traits to be non-obvious in how it works, and to top it all off, the math makes it so all options other than the one-action version are entirely pointless. Boy, that's pretty good too. I don't know if it's the top though. I feel like because it's a subsystem, the 3,300 words was measured, not even guessed. All right. We're through the first. All right. So we're through the first one. So we're going to have to create it's going to have to be a Swiss thing. All right. So drive is pretty good. All right. So we've got Umbral Extraction, Bane Rune. Okay. So we've got a couple ones that have made the cut. So I'm going to put this poll in here. All right. And just vote for the one that you think is the worst. Or is the most Pathfinder 2 thing. Those, both of them, and those two will make it into the final round. Okay, we'll have to have a couple. We'll have to have a Swiss tournament here. But I mean, drive is pretty good. All right, we got a couple votes coming in. I'm gonna drink some water while you guys vote. Bob is saying, Self-Confessed Cynic is saying drive is pretty good. Bob is saying radiation is just woof. Stream Elements is saying, hey, why don't you support the Knights? Use the link in the description below for our Stream Elements tip page. Yeah. Oh, Alchemist is on this twice. My bad. Ignore. Misspelling Alchemist is the most Derek option. The bottom Alchemist is actually Anchor Root. Okay, the bottom Alchemist is Anchor Root. Okay. So middle Bane and Alchemist spelled incorrectly. That is the real Alchemist. Alchemist at the bottom of the poll is Anchor Root. Okay. All right. We got 26 votes. I'm going to give it one more minute. If that keeps going on, we're going to go to the next one. All right. Oh, Mira said Alchemist class as well. So we already have that one in the poll. Remember, the real Alchemist class is the second one. Boothby. Rolling initiative. Ooh, interesting. Keep voting on the first round. Joe, what is this stream about? Well, Joe, we spent the first hour and a half talking about Pathfinder 2 and whether or not the growth of the game, both from a money perspective, a player, total number of players perspective, and from a design ethos perspective, do we think that the future for that is golden or gloomy or neutral? And that was sort of how we spent the first hour and a half. Now I did a thing on our Patreon where I asked people to sort of submit your option. What did you think is the most Pathfindery thing in Pathfinder? The most just so weird and wonky and cringy and kind of bad in a weird way, and explain why. And we're voting to see what do we feel is the most like, this is just that kind of, Pathfinder 2 eye roll thing in Pathfinder. Hey, John says, prepping for a game in 20 minutes. Sorry for being quiet. The fact classes exist at all when the glorious archetype system exists is the most PF2 thing either. Agree. We're still creating new classes, and Pathfinder has the archetype system is one of the best options in it, and I feel like they have definitely dropped the ball on the archetype system for the most part. So Joe, I agree. So one of the first things that we said is that if D&D, the player base is definitely going to grow. It's definitely going to grow because people are already leaving D&D 1 for trying to Pathfinder 2, and if D&D 1 burns them out, blows them out, and drops the ball, you're going to see a huge spike in the number of players. So, all right, we got 31 votes, and while it was close, it is clearly that it is clear that the Umbral Extraction / Fight to the Death has won the poll. So, thank you, John, for that incredible and gracious super chat. And that's all right that you're being quiet. All right, Boothby. So we're moving into the back. We're moving in the back nine here. Boothby says, rolling initiative. All combats are mutually agreed upon by all involved parties, guaranteeing combat as a sport as the de facto playstyle. It is impossible to snipe or sucker punch anyone because any attack roll requires all parties in the combat to first roll initiative. This allows for the possibility of your target winning initiative and taking actions to invalidate or prevent the action you were taking that initiated the combat in the first place. This is the classic example of where you're in a heated debate with someone and you say, screw that. I pull out my dagger and I throw it at them. And you say, well, no, you can't do that. We got to roll initiative. Now, so you haven't even pulled out your dagger yet. And then the GM rolls initiative and you lose initiative. Maybe even go like last. And so the person that you were going to throw a dagger at goes first. Now, do they know that they're in initiative? Should they even react? It's kind of just wonky. Now, to be clear, Pathfinder 2 does say that the GM alone determines when initiative is rolled. And I do think that you can use that to your advantage in these situations. Yes, Phoenix Trinity. I charge the NPC. Sure, roll initiative. You roll a 1 and you go last, and the NPC charges you for reasons. Always AFK says, I mean, I would allow the player to pull the dagger before initiative rolls. Right. It is kind of wonky, though, right? Always AFK, because isn't that kind of what initiative is? Isn't that who's reacting first? I mean, if you had the enemy pulling their dagger out first, players might say, well, wait, can I react first? I'm pretty sure I fireballed a group prior to initiative. Now, to be fair, the book does say that the GM alone determines when initiative is rolled. So in theory, you could do a bunch of stuff and just never call for an initiative roll. I agree mostly with, I mostly agree here with Rick, who says GM should just roll a surprise attack and let the combat start after the dagger is thrown. I'm inclined to agree, although it does create this kind of weird precedent because, again, does that mean whoever speaks first gets to go first? It's a little bit, it's a slippery slope. That's all I'm going to say. It's a slippery slope because imagine if the situation was reversed. Like if we're having a conversation and then I say, the NPC pulls out a dagger and throws at you, surprising you. The party might go, what? No, didn't I see it? Shouldn't there be initiative? What's going on here? Like, it feels weird when you reverse it. Now, be a fan of the PCs is a fine philosophy, and I think it's a good one. But I agree with you that initiative is really, really strange. But I don't think this makes the top off of our list. Initiative is weird for a variety of reasons, Boothby. And Pathfinder 2 is just one of the many reasons. It's not unique to Pathfinder 2. All right, awesome. Says at level 20, when creatures can do 100 plus damage on a crit, and you've been tanking fireballs for 15 levels, your explorer's clothes, likely with runes valued at 50k or even 100k GP, has a hardness of 1, HP of 4, break threshold of 2. But don't worry, guys, objects aren't targetable by strikes or spells. I'm going to add this to the poll because I think it's a little bit wonky, which is just object targeting in general. Object and equipment targeting is very strange, for sure, right? It's weird and it doesn't work very well, and the fact that like fireballs are just getting blown over you and like your equipment is always completely fine. It's like Superman's cape. It's a little strange, and at least his excuse is that he's Kryptonian and the cape's Kryptonian. But what's your excuse, right? So I agree. All right. 15 from Wilvik. The acrobat archetype being mechanically interesting and cool, but conceptually uninteresting, while the conceptually interesting oracle or alchemists are mechanically dull and tiresome gameplay. I think this kind of falls into this idea of the alchemist class of just being, this needlessly complicated thing that doesn't really deliver and being part of Pathfinder 2, but why not? We'll add it here. Acrobat cool, oracle, and alchemist drool. 16. Plus grab. That is very funny, but that is probably not one that we are going to go with. But yes, plus grab is very Pathfinder 2. Hey, this thing, it does damage plus grab. Oh, so it just grabs them? No, you have to look up at the back of the book. Plus grab is an action that allows you to grab them. Savore, an oxymoron of my PF2 experience, fireball, efficient and succinct at 38 words and 8 numbers, and still cannot burn the paper that it's on. So that's going to go back into object and equipment targeting. Autosama says 4 degrees of success. I think they were taking this too literally. That is a very Pathfinder 2 thing, but it's not particularly cringe. We're going to add plus grab. And then lastly, Bob. Polar bear does not have cold resistance. Also, it can't swim. The old polar bear. No cold resistance. Can't swim because it's a pet. I mean, the real polar bear might be able to swim and the real polar bear might have cold resistance, but the pet polar bear does not. All right. So, round 2. We got our vote. Strat says the real polar bear has a 15-foot swim speed, but if you've got an animal companion polar bear, get wrecked. All right. Remember, this is just round 2. All right. We're gonna wait till we get at least about 30 votes here. So I'm gonna drink some water as we go into this. Hey,
let's get ready to RPG! 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 RPG!
All right. Object equipment targeting is out to an early lead. Very, very, very Pathfinder 2. Plus grab is very Pathfinder 2 in Bob's opinion. Pathfinder 2 is all about balance above everything else. Yeah, I agree. Oh boy. Minandrea says polar bear is the win for me if the alchemist can't get it. I mean, polar bear is pretty good. I mean, watching Bob's polar bear almost drown in that cave lake that was only like, 10 feet deep or something like that was just outrageously funny. All right. Well, we're almost at 30 votes, and object equipment targeting has definitely just crushed it here out into the front runner. All right. So we're going to call it. All right. So we're going to go into the finals. All right. Top two. So whichever top two are going to go into the finals. All right. So this is what is this? This is the semifinal round. Okay. We're going to have, oh no, we have another quarter. We got a quarterfinal. Oh my God. We got a quarterfinal, people. We've got Blast Lock. We've got Radiation Trait. We've got Umbral Extraction. And we've got Umbral Extraction. And we've got Fights to the Death. All right. Top two advance. All right. Top two advance. Let's get it going. So this is from our first. This is from the round of 16. This is from the left side of our bracket. All right. These are the top two that made it out of there. So remember, we're gonna take the top two from this, and those are gonna advance into the semifinal round. So we've got Blast Lock and Fight to the Death out both to an early start. Vin is shilling for both of those. Flame Loud coming in late. Wait. Radiation is a trait, sort of Flame Loud. It has no text. It is in the game. It is a trait, but it has no description and does nothing. Also, the radioactive metal doesn't use it. It's in the game, but it doesn't use by anybody. So again, we're going to wait for this to get close to 30 votes. I want to say thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us today. That was a little bit fun as we sort of rein this in. And to be clear, part of the reason I try to use these mods and all this other stuff in OBS is I like talking to you. I like having these conversations. I like getting your opinions and your polls. I know not everybody loves it, but part of the biggest fun for me in our AP games, I know a lot of people did not like the Wheel of Pain. They thought it was silly or crazy. Some people didn't like that. The chat could buy people hero points, Derek hero points, which were very, very powerful, by the way. But I love it. And I know it probably ruins the sanctity of the game and it feels more like a game show. But, part of the reason I do this is because I want to be able to interact with you and have fun with you. And if you look at Quest for the Frozen Flame and you look at, David Hatchethoff and, Breck's critical and Tim tracking his crits with the hatchet, like, that is, that's everything that, that we like. And we love it. And, we want to see it. John, I will see you later. Remember to send me that information about Fate so I can get those loaded into OBS. Absolutely, Rick. Interaction is why you hang out here. Interaction is why I hang out here. That's what makes it fun. Vince says the game show needs to come back. Let's go. Vin's not wrong. And I will probably do some sort of fun game show element for the Christmas stream because I think that'll be really, really fun. But thank you for that super chat for sure. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it was a little crazy. I will admit it was a little overdone in Rise of the Runelords, but it is fun. Well, Captain, I don't recognize the name. Normally I know most of our people, so I do agree with you. That is your first time here. But yes, I'm happy to have you here. And yeah, I mean, our streams are very, very interactive. I have my chat right in my camera on a teleprompter so I can see everything. Wheel of Pain moment is when that troll demon, it was a troll boss, Gabriel, gets to full hit point on Potion of Elixir. And we can just see the players' faces. Oh yeah, that's so good. All right, I'm going to end the poll. We've got two clear winners who are going to be advancing, and that is Fight to the Death and Blast Lock. All right. So that means we're now going to go into the semifinal. All right. So again, semifinal, top two advance. All right. We've got Blast Lock. We've got Object, Equipment, Non-Targeting. We've got, ignore this poll. I hit buttons too quickly. All right. Semifinal, top two, advance. All right. We've got Blast Lock. We've got Object, Equipment, Non-Targeting. We've got Fights to the Death. And we have Polar Bear. All right. Here we go. Yes, the old potion of elixir. All right, so remember, top two are going to advance. So what is the most Pathfinder-y 2 thing to be ever Pathfinder 2? All right. And the top two will go to the finals, and then we will vote and see which one is going to be the winner. So again, remember to vote. Basically we're doing ranked choice voting here because, we believe in that. Some real competition. Damien wants some Potion of Elixir merch. Damien, love to give it. I mean, Potion of Elixir merch would be so great. How great would like a Potion of Elixir mug be, right? DM Gary, I feel like I will cast my vote when I get into one of those PF2 games. Oh, DM Gary, you could vote whenever. Your vote is valid here. Potion of Healing, Elixir of Life. All right. Oh, you're permanent DM. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, DM Gary. You're okay. All right. Well, your vote's definitely good here, even if you haven't played a lot of Pathfinder 2 yet. But that's okay. You can just go with whatever you feel is right. All right. YouTube is saying, Derek, you should run an ad. All right. All right, we've got two clear winners. It's going to be Blast Lock and Object Targeting. So I'm going to end the poll, and we're going to do our finals. Final poll, the finals. Okay, this is France versus Argentina. Is it Blast Lock, or is it an Object, Equipment, Non-Targeting? All right. Boom. All right. This is it. This is the finals. Which one is it? You decide. Oh, that's true. That's true. Blast Lock is Blast Lock at this? Oh, this is exciting. I did not expect this. Look at this. It's coming out. Look, what is the difference between these two pictures? They're the same. Oh, wow. Okay. People have transcended that Blast Lock is really just an issue with object non-targeting. Wow, that is crazy. But Blast Lock is particularly ridiculous. But Blast Lock in a way is sort of a representation for all of those feats, right? That just don't make any sense. But if you think about Demolition Charge, isn't that really because of not object targeting? Maybe a little bit. I don't know. We're at 30 votes. We're going to give it another 15 seconds.
I am strong.
All right, 30 votes, and it seems like it's pretty clear that we have a winner. And in a sense, I agree with you, Frostjack. I think they're kind of tied into one another. It's taking fireballs, not burning things, has to win. And and self-confessed cynic, it is so appropriate given that we just ended the Quest for the Frozen Flame adventure. And spoiler alerts, there's issues there with fireballs not burning things, or at least there should be. But I agree with you, Frostjack. I think these are actually two sides of the same coin. the first is this really weird gamist issue, which is, okay, I can't target things with my attack. But then the flip side of it is, but we are giving you a feat or an archetype and this strange gateway to be able to interact with it in a way that just feels like you should be able to interact with it regardless of the fact. We have a super chat from 9Breaker2. Blast Lock is the same as the remove spells. They don't do what they say, but it gives you a chance to do the thing that you think that it should do. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. Exactly. It's just like remove disease, remove curse, remove. You're like, oh, this does the thing. And you're like, well, no, not really. It gives you a chance to do the thing, and then you might feel cool. But now we're going to turn it into a fun game because dice rolls are involved, and you might have to use several dice rolls. And maybe you'll fail, and maybe you'll critically fail, and it'll be really bad. So the winner is object targeting, which I think is Savolray, who mentioned specifically Fireball, but Awesome is also. So those are going to be our winners, Awesome and Savolray. So congratulations to Awesome and to Savolray for picking up the W here, for successfully submitting what chat felt was essentially the worst part of Pathfinder 2, or not the worst part, but the just the quintessential God. And I think, a lot of the issues that we talk about on our Discord and on this channel are sort of tied into these pillars here, where the game feels like there's this frictional interface sometimes between where the game is like, well, do whatever you want. It's loosey-goosey, right? I mean, it's a simulation. You should be able to do whatever you want. Well, no, you can't do any of that. You need a feat for that. Or, well, you can't target. The fireball doesn't burn anything because that might ruin the GM's story. And it's kind of like, well, so wait, is this just a game then? No. It's free form. It's role playing. It can be whatever you want it to be. But it's like, no, is it though? Because your game rules seem to really suggest otherwise. Well, you could just ignore all that and just do whatever you want. Okay, yeah, but aren't there entire archetypes and whole feat lines dedicated to actually being able to do that within the rules? Well, sure. And you're like, okay, so I'm just going to take Dual Slice then, because pretty sure I'm not going to be able to talk my way out of that one. And so it's a weird sort of pressure into the game. But yeah, correct strat, unless the GM story requires it, and then it will, and it can. So congrats to Awesome and to Savolray. I'll be making sure that they get some hero points for successfully doing that. And that's pretty awesome. So, hey, by the way, 9Breaker, you took over as the hype boss on that super chat, so that's pretty sweet. That's pretty awesome. We've had some really great super chats tonight. We've had some incredible tip support. So thank you so much. Yes, exactly, Awesome. The fireball that potentially causes an avalanche, even though it really shouldn't. Does she have demolition charge? If she does, why do I need demolition charge, but the NPC does not need demolition charge? Flame Loud. Because we spent the first hour and a half of the stream talking about whether or not Pathfinder 2E reached its peak. And we discussed some of the elements around all of that. Again, specifically, we felt like, or I felt like, and I think chat had some good points as well, but feel free to watch the VOD. But I think in terms of players, no. The players are going to continue to grow as 1D&D continues to cause people to hemorrhage from 5th edition, and more players are going to find themselves attracted to what is essentially, the next closest competitor. I don't expect a lot of 5th edition players to say, I don't like the direction 1D&D is going. I'm going to go play old school essentials. I don't think that they're going to say, hey, I'm going to go play Legend of the Five Rings, right? They're not going to do that. So I think the people who are going to come in are going to be interested in playing in Pathfinder 2. And I think some of them will just leave. Secondly, has Pathfinder 2 reached its peak in terms of its monetization capabilities? The answer is there. Sadly, maybe. I know that as editions get longer and go on further, you get more and more burnout from players. Everyone wanted to buy the APG. I only have 12 classes in the core rulebook. I need 17. I need 5 more classes. Give me the APG. Then you got 2 more classes in, Secrets of Magic. And you're like, okay, I guess I kind of need those. Maybe I don't, but whatever. Guns and Gears, you're like, well, I probably will never play that, but I mean, I do need that 19th and that, 18th and 19th class. Then 2 more classes came out. Now you're suddenly at 21 classes, and you're like, okay, how many classes do I need? And I think with each edition, you're just going to, each book, each year, you're going to get less and less of your existing player base that are going to buy them. And if these new swelling of people into the Pathfinder 2 space are just going to go ahead and use Archives and Nethys, and if people don't sign up for Pathfinder Infinite, then Paizo could have a problem with monetization. So that has the peak of sales capped? Maybe. It all depends on what these new folks do when they come into the game. It depends on what monetization options Paizo has. And then it really determines, are we going to keep buying all the books? The third element is, has the game design peaked? And on this one, I am unclear. Normally, I would say yes, right? You've done the best parts of your design. You picked the lowest hanging fruit. Now you're coming out with classes that are weird and niche and don't maybe fit as well. And, you're maybe not using your best ideas because you already used them, or because you're saving them for a future edition. And I would normally be very negative about this. I would say, yes, Pathfinder 2 has reached its design peak, but the design of the Thaumaturge and the design of the Psychic give me some hope that maybe there is some interesting new space for class and system development left within the system. It remains to be seen. I have the Treasure Vault PDF, haven't looked at it yet, but it's possible that maybe there are some really cool and interesting items that really not only just give us actual more options, but expand what the game system can do and push the boundaries of what we are currently doing. Does this game, or does this set of rules meaningfully change the game in a way that is both exciting and in a way that is meaningful? That remains to be seen. Will Rage of Elements do that next August? My guess is no, but we'll see. We'll see. But I think we can all agree to that, right? Like Dark Archives, a lot of people are just going to take Thaumaturge and Psychic, and they're just going to throw them into their party of Leshies and Ghosts, and people's parties are a travesty. Tell me that you all created your characters individually at home on Path Builder before you ever showed up to the campaign, without actually telling me that you all created your characters individually without consulting anyone before you showed up to the campaign. Like, these characters just look, they're just so outrageous. It literally just looks like a pickup group from an MMO. It's completely nonsense. But anyways. Yeah, so that is what we were talking about in terms of the base. Bill says, if I ever run Pathfinder 2 again, I will limit it to the core rulebook. And, Bill, I did that with Pathfinder 1 at the end. I got tired of the archetypes. I got tired of all the expansion and the splat and the 85 books at the table. And I just said, core rulebook only. And I know that there are players out there for whom building a character is part of the fun of the game. And we talked about this on the Patreon. By the way, if you're into these conversations and you're not a member of the Patreon, so go sign up right now. I don't even, if I didn't get the money, I would still tell you to go sign up for the Patreon, because this is what we talk about all day. And it could, and if you're open-minded and you want to have your beliefs challenged, or you want to challenge other people's beliefs without being a dick, then Knights of Last Call Patreon is the single best place to do that on the internet, period. And people change my mind, I change their mind. It is a discussion. It is not an echo chamber. You are going to read things that you are not going to agree with, and that's okay. You are going to be forced to challenge your beliefs. You're going to be exposed to new ideas and new games, and trust me, that's a good thing. But check us out, patreon.com/Knights of Last Call, and of course, subscribe like click the bell so that you know when we do live streams. Like, for example, plug time this Saturday, December 17th, 5 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be doing a special stream. Normally we do not stream on Saturdays, but we're doing one because of the holidays. We're going to be covering the Fate system. That's right. FATE, the weird dice with the pluses and the minuses on them. And we're going to be giving away several copies of the Fate core rule system and the Fate system toolkit book. So come hang out, learn about Fate, ask questions, maybe win a free RPG book. It'll be sweet. So come join us as we sort of wrap up the end of the year with some fun stuff. So, all right, back to it. Flame Loud says, I do think that they should slow down on new classes and focus on expanding, I'm assuming you said, the classes already there and releasing more archetypes. Flame Loud, we talked about this as well. I think part of their design philosophy has been they do not want you to have 7 books in front of you to be able to play a fighter. And I don't think you're going to see, I mean, you got a couple of them. You got some new feats in the APG, but since the APG, which I think they consider to be part of the core, we have not seen new fighter feats or new ranger feats because they don't want you to have 7 books in front of you to be able to play, quote unquote, the ranger. Instead, they're going to use archetypes. But I mean, the archetype system, I think, is woefully underutilized and needs to be designed and used better. So, let's see. Permanent DM reminding they need to put up another 4E community game. Yes, of course. Good. A lot of 4E community games. I bought the 4E core rulebook, says Greg, and I do like it, but without the online tools, it's too much overhead. Well, the good news is the online tools are present, Greg. You just have to know how to do them. You can get them for that. But I agree. Like, I miss D&D Beyond, but it's not as hard as you think. I'm sure DM Gary can help you out. So yeah. Nightish says, I disagree with the Patreon maybe about 80% of the time. Don't worry, Nightish. So do I. Listen, I love everybody there, and there's people there that I would happily, grab a beer with every week if we were in the same locality, and just hang out and shoot the shit and have fun with and go to a ball game or whatever. But I think my way of playing role-playing games is better, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And I don't begrudge anyone for feeling like the way that they run their games is the best. The only thing I ask is that we just listen to each other, and at least we try to be open-minded, and I think that's fine. Greg, certainly understand that point there. Finding a game, huge deal. I mean, I think that's one of the big reasons why people continue to play 5th edition. They say, good luck finding if you go to my local store or if you go online, you can find 10,000 D&D games, but good luck finding anything else, especially something small or out of print or old like D&D 4th edition or something like Legend of the Five Rings or whatever. Although apparently there's no DMs anyways, so go figure. Let's see. Sean, a shame class archetypes were supposed to be a thing, but are extremely underutilized. I agree completely. And I do consider APG core as well. But yes. Archetypes are too restricted in power level to be able to do something cool with them. Yes, I that is where I would love to have seen the game expand. I mean, I've said before several times, I would love to do a remake of Pathfinder 2 where there's only 3 classes. You have the warrior class, which gets legendary weapon proficiency. You have the skill class, which gets master level proficiency, and then you have the caster class, which gets to expert weapon proficiency, and then some of the other core elements or core chassis elements are part of that. A 10 hit point class that gets to legendary, an 8 hit point class that gets to master, a 6 hit point class that gets to expert, no spell progression, limited spell progression or something, and then full spell progression, and then everything else in the game, and there's a couple features that tie into that, and then everything else in the game is an archetype, and you just plug it into that core chassis. I think that is what I would, and I understand like Worlds Without Numbers does this and everything like that, and there's a couple other games that do something similar, but my real my real impetus for this is actually 3rd edition, which is had 3 NPC classes called the Warrior, the Expert, and the Adept, the Warrior, Expert, and the Adept. And those were the NPC, Fighter, Skill User, Spellcaster, and you just take those and make those your core chassis, and I think that'd be really cool. Let's see. Dr. Urius, what's up? What's up? Dr. Urius Papers 2020. I don't recognize the name, but welcome. I'm glad you're here. Let's see. It's Thursday night. It's Thursday night. It's time to go watch Critical Role. Make so much money. They have lost all their subs because campaign 3 is boring. All right. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I've heard it, and I'm not a critter. Sorry to say. I tried to watch season 2. Nightish, that blew my mind. I was apparently in the minority that, I mean, there were people who didn't know too, but I had heard that it wasn't live, and I was like, oh my God. Because, at least I was respectful of that. And then when I found out it wasn't live, I was like, and it's still on Twitch? Like, what's the deal with that? Huh? How is that possible? Like, that's just so weird. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, again, this kind of a tangent here, and it's 9:15, but you people are awesome, and everybody tipped me really well tonight, and we're having fun here. But let me just say something here. I think something that we have to be prepared for is like Pogs or like Beanie Babies, right? No one ever see, or like Bitcoin or, crypto or NFTs. I think part of what we have to accept is that RPGs and TTRPGs and D&D in particular have just been a fad for the last 5 years. And it gained some momentum going into the pandemic because of the existence of Critical Role was starting to gain some traction. Some quasi-Hollywood types were doing some stuff. You had, the beginnings of the streamer movement, and it was becoming more, available to people. And then, it was in Stranger Things, and it was a big deal. And it really just pushed the game. And, maybe it was the right time in the right place. People wanted to connect in a different way. They were burned out of their video games or their board games. And this was a culture, right? The Tinder had been set. This was a group of people, and I'll include my age. I'm 40, but let's just say the 35, 30, 25, 20-year-olds, people who grew up, if you're 25 today, you were born in what, 98? So you grew up watching Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Marvel movies. Like, your whole childhood was just this massive saturation of fantasy. And then, you had this desire to interact with that. And the cultural phenomenon was there. It was the perfect time. And then boom, it hit. And everybody was like, yeah, and it became this big thing to do. And D&D, you hear WotC talking about D&D as a lifestyle brand now, that you have people who have D20 tattoos.
Overlord from tipped $150, dropping in to say hi and help support your awesome content. Cheers.
Overlord, our favorite Southerner, doing what he does best. Dropping in and just crushing out the hype boss. Overlord, very, very, very much thank you. We love you. We still want, if we ever do the cross-country trip, buddy, we want to see that. We want to see the gaming house in person. Overlord, thank you very, very much. Whenever you do this, it's just such a nice thing and such a beautiful gesture. We are going to keep doing what we do because of people like you, because of everybody who supports and tips this channel, our incredible patrons, our incredible tippers. Thank you so very much, Overlord. Very, 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 very much thank you. And I hope you have a great holidays with your family, and love to see you in chat. Love to see you dropping by. Thank you so very much. Wow. All right. Thank you. So for these people, they grew up with fantasy, and so they were primed to do this. And now everybody's been playing D&D. And guess what? You know, a lot of people play Magic the Gathering, or they play Pokemon, or, you know, they grew up playing Pokemon, right? And they don't play it for the rest of their lives. They play it for, 4, 5, 6 years, and then they move on. They get married, they start families, and they put that stuff aside. Okay? Like, not everybody does this. D&D they're calling it a lifestyle brand, but I don't think it is. Phoenix Trinity, $2 for no other reason that Beanie Babies are cool. That's got to be the weirdest super chat I've ever gotten. Big flex on that one. I love it. That's no shame right there. Overlord comes in and just drops a massive tip and just, does what he does. And then I got to love the audacity for Phoenix to come in and say, Beanie Babies are cool. I just respect the hustle there. Well, thank you, Phoenix Trinity. Appreciate you so much. I never collected Beanie Babies. I got to admit, my mom didn't collect Beanie Babies. We were not a Beanie Baby household. I kind of thought they were silly and stupid. I avoided them. I like Magic the Gathering. Wow. So remember when Beanie Babies were a lifestyle brand? Yeah, I mean, kind of, right? They were on magazines, you have the grocery store, they were everywhere. All I'm saying is not everybody is in this for the lifestyle or for the lifestyle and for the lifetime. And again, like I was saying, there are people who get like D20, isodecahedron tattoos on them, and you ask them about their D&D campaign, and they go, "Oh, I've never played D&D. I just think it's cool. I watch Critical Role, and I just think it's cool." And like that blows my mind. But ultimately, those people, like I said before, they're just in the shallow end of the pool. And so it's easy to get out. When you're not in the deep end, it's real easy to just get out, go to shore. So I think part of what I think we might be seeing here in general is the hobby taking a big step back. I think D&D has been really super popular for 5 years. I think we're in a post-pandemic reality. I think people are maybe stepping away from their hobby gaming, and they're going back to the bars, and they're going back to the sport events, and they're going back to concerts, and that's not everybody. That's not us, because we're going to be playing this when we're in retirement homes. But for the people for whom this was just a fun fad, a fling, they're over it. They're done. And I think you're going to see those player numbers and those dollars vacate and potentially leave over the next, couple years. That's my thought process. Now, is that doom and gloom? No, I don't think so. I think when I liked 4th edition, but the collapse of 4th edition and its splintering of the base and the edition wars created for me one of the single greatest renaissances in indie game design of all time. And now we live in a world of Kickstarter and itch.io. And if we could just get the people fragmented and exploring the space, I love it. And then, and kick out the people who aren't really interested anyways. Is that gatekeeping? No. I mean, I'm just saying I accept that some people want to come in and they're not going to be playing this game for 25 years. They're not going to be playing this game for 35 years. Okay. It's not for everybody. And I think they came in, they did what they did, and then they left. And that's okay. I mean, that's just natural. And again, the tides have turned, right? Stranger Things. Oh, Stranger Things 5. It's like, okay, we get it. Like, they're not going to be playing D&D in Stranger Things 5, right? Oh, Hellfire Club. Cool. It's like, that show is already that show should have ended in season 4. The fact that they're doing another 5. Now it just seems desperate. And then you see that in the quality of the books. Spelljammer books sucked, and they don't even know what they're doing with this one D&D. It feels like they're just throwing stuff at a dartboard. And I mean, I'd love for them to be successful. I love D&D, but I feel like they have no idea what they're doing. And they're just, they've already started to ruin Magic, if not already ruined Magic completely. And I have no hope for them to do that. And the people who are already not interested are going to be doubly not interested when they leave. So yeah. And that's where we're at. So just want to go back again and just once again, big shout out, Overlord, for that incredibly generous tip and donation. Really love it, especially as we go in here into the holiday season. Actually, this is great because I'm going to be giving away a lot of prizes here in the next couple of weeks because I've got we've got our December Hero Point prize for a patron. We've got our Q4 Hero Point prize for a patron. Then I have to give away our annual Hero Point prizes. And then I'm giving away a custom game table so that I'm going to be making myself and hand delivering if you live in the continental US sometime next year. Listen, Knights of Last Call is known for giving away all of its money, and I'm happy to do it. And people are awesome. KC, my brother had the exact life cycle. Started playing with friends during the pandemic. When they stopped, he joined my campaign for a year. Then his social calendar got busy again, and he bailed. Yep. I think that's true for a lot of people, and I think it's going to be true for us as well. You know, I mean, for what we see people doing, I should say. Ah, boy. Let's see. What's going on here with I don't even know what Strat is saying. This is crazy. Phoenix, love to see the process behind the table. Yeah, I think we are going to Bob's going to help me build it, and we are definitely going to be recording that and filming that, probably a little bit of a series. And then when we do go to deliver it, we're going to make a fun little vlog as we sort of travel across the country to deliver the table. I mean, obviously, I hope that whoever wins it does live in the United States and they do want the table, because I think building it will be fun and delivering it will be fun. But, we have members who are obviously, in the EU or in Australia. We have people who are active duty military, which again, big up to you all. Getting a full-size gaming table, not exactly in the cards for them. So we're going to make sure that whoever wins it, if it's not something that they can sort of take advantage of, even if they have to delay it for a year or two, that's totally fine. We'll let them put it on hold. But if it's just not something that's going to be a thing for them, we'll work with them to give them some sort of cash equivalent prize. I don't know, maybe every hard copy Pathfinder 2 book or something, We'll give them that. Does Canada count as a continental U.S.? I think it really comes down to Brutus. Can I get over the border? I don't know. If somebody, I'll say this: if somebody is like in Ontario, which is not that far from us, and they want to come, if they want to come across the border and pick up the table, they could totally do that. So, for sure. But we had one Australian who said that if they want it, because the tables that I make, I usually sell for several $1,000s, and, they're probably worth more than that. Wormwood tables are worth $4,000 or $5,000, and those are made in a machine on a factory. These are custom made exactly to your specifications. I said, well, they're like, can you ship it to Australia? I said, well, no, it'd be like, you'd have to pay the shipping. It might be like $1,500. And they're like, well, I'll pay $1,500 for a $6,000 table. And I said, oh, that's probably a good point, actually. So we'll work with somebody. Again, it's going to be a custom one-off for sure to fit your needs, your living space, and all that other stuff. It'll be fun. But anyways, that'll be a whole thing. So all these big things are going to be coming in at the end of the year. We've got the Poppet stream. We're doing a Northern Reaches. Bob and Kaz are right now working on data and statistics from our Northern Reaches game. We're going to do some Northern Reaches prizes for, who GM'd the most, who died the most, who played the most. We're going to have some fun little prizes there as well. So Cleveland is just a few hours. I know. I've driven up to Toronto many times for Magic the Gathering tournaments. It's about, I would say it's about what, maybe 4 hours. 4 hours and change. So just shoot across the border at the falls, and there you go. I've done that drive many times. Phoenix, are those random drawn prizes for the table stuff or hero point prizes? Well, those are two different things. The hero point prizes are based off of who has the most hero points awarded on, as per our monthly hero point tracking. And we're going to probably give prizes probably up to the top 10. but we might have some consolation prizes for like the 11 through 20. The table prize is just, it's available to all patrons. You're going to get a number of tickets depending on how long you've been a patron and what your tier level is. But even a squire at, $3 a month who's been a member for just a few months technically is going to get a few tickets into the raffle. Now, obviously, if you're a hero tier or a champion tier member and you've been a member all year, you're going to have a greater chance of winning. But technically, let the dice fall where they may. It's a givey. So no. In fact, you could have 0 hero points through our Patreon and you could still win the table. The table is actually coming out of my personal budget. The hero point prizes are going to come from KOLC LLC. That is actually the channel hero points, me using the money from the channel to buy those hero point prizes. The table is my gift to the patrons. And so I'm going to be paying for it out of my pocket, technically I own KLLC, LLC, but I keep the finances separate. And so that I'm actually going to be paying that out of my money. So, and that's going to be on my time. So, that's right. Everybody has a chance for it. So, if you, even if you sign up in December, you only get one entry, but if you sign up in December, you would technically get one entry into the win. So, again, I would love it if one of our long-standing members who won the table, because I feel like they would deserve it. But I think we all agree that, listen, if you're a Knights of Last Call Patreon, that the dice fall where they may, and boy, you got to just let it go for that. So, what happens if you don't have space for the table? Well, Greg, that's what I was trying to say. I'll work with the person to try to develop something for them that works best for them. But ultimately, if they win the table and they can't take the table and they don't have room for the table, we'll figure out some sort of other awesome, cool prize. Ideally, one that maybe we could deliver in person if it's even something that's even remotely possible. But like I said, maybe we give you, a copy buy a hard copy of every Pathfinder 2 book or something like that and deliver it, or come up with something really, really cool, big prize, something worth $1,000 or something crazy. Now, Greg, if you want to let someone re-roll for someone else, that is that's certainly a very, gentlemanly or very ladylike move. I would certainly, be happy to give you a consolation prize if someone chose to do that. Be happy to give you, $100 gift certificate to Drive Through RPG or something like that, and then roll again and somebody else gets it. So up to a certain point, I don't want to give away $5,000 in Drive Through RPG tickets, but I don't know. I'm excited. We just finished up Quest for the Frozen Flame, Pathfinder 2 has been obviously really interesting and good for us and good for the channel, but it's not like me. I've been playing Pathfinder 2 now for over a year straight. We started playing Rise of the Rune Lords back in middle of we started playing Rise of the Rune Lords 2 years ago, and we played Pathfinder 2 straight, and for like 16 months or something like that. And then we started Northern Reaches. Then we started Quest for the Frozen Flame. There may be like a month break there, but we played Dark of Winter campaign where I was a player for Pathfinder 2. Northern Reaches, being the Overlord, reading all the reports, playing those games, building those monsters. It's not in my nature to play one game for 6 months, let alone 2 years, and let alone to have 5 or 4 different games going on in that 2-year period, only being one game. And I got to be honest with you, I'm excited to continue to talk about Pathfinder 2, and I'm excited to play some Pathfinder 2 certainly with members of our Patreon. Someone had a really great, cool idea about bringing back Rise of the Rune Lords, but using Gore, Villic, Shalelu, and Amiko as the new party. I thought that was awesome. Like, that idea was so cool. That actually made me want to and they hear about how the knights, met their end, and they have to go and deal with the threat of, the stone giants. I thought that was awesome. And I was like, oh, that'd be pretty cool. So, there's definitely an awesomeness there, but man, I am eager. I'm itching to play. I've got mounds of games around me unopened. I've got my OSE stuff came in. My Torchbearer 2 stuff is still in a box. I've got Legend of the Five Rings stuff, which I haven't had a chance to play in close to, a year now. Like, there's so many awesome, cool games out there. And I turned 40 this year. I don't have all the time in the world that I would want to play these games. And I got to make it happen because I don't want to just be that person who just sticks with one game system forever. So, I appreciate everyone coming in and talking Pathfinder 2 with me and being a part of the Patreon and enjoying our Pathfinder 2 content. In fact, I have a combat and tactics video that I'm editing right now. I tried to get it out last week, but I just didn't get the editing done before I had to go to the airport. And, Pathfinder 2 is something that is going to be an important part of this channel, but we're in 2023, you're going to see us doing some other stuff as well. So I certainly, if that's not your cup of tea and you want to go somewhere else, I have nothing but love for you, but certainly I need to be true to myself, and I need to be true to you all. And thankfully, I have the support of enough people that, allow me some freedom to do what I want to do. Anyways, point is, I think the future of Pathfinder 2 is interesting. I think that we're going to see, if you want to play more games, I think you're going to see a lot of new players coming in. They're going to be 5e players, former 5e players, but they're going to be coming in droves. But side note to that, tell them to buy the fucking book. Okay? Don't tell them to go get it for free. Tell them, look, they could pay $70. Okay? Give some money to Jason and Eric and Mark. Okay? Let them get paid for their hard work. Okay? If they're going to play the game, this great game with the great math and the great classes, and it fixes everything from 5e, they can throw in some money. We all did. They can do it in. Okay? They did it. You did it. I did it. They can do it. Okay? At least buy the PDFs. Not buy the PDF too, but buy the hard book. Like, just own the book. Give them their money. Second, I think from a money perspective, Paizo needs to figure out a way to keep selling books. That is very clear. Hopefully we can help with that. But I can tell you, I'm not buying every Pathfinder 2 book that comes out now. I'm not. I don't need them all. I haven't even read through all of them yet. And it's just too much, let alone the APs. And, if you buy the hardback, you get the PDF. Okay, so there you go. Buy the hardback, get the PDF, do your part for King and Country. Third, design. We saw some interesting stuff with Thaumaturge and Psychic in Dark Archives. But what are they going to keep doing? Generating 5 classes a year? That's not going to happen. So far, we have 1 book on the roster for next year that is in Treasure Vault, which comes out real early in the year. But that's Rage of Elements, 1 class, Kineticist. How many classes do you need for a system? I don't know. Is it 23? You probably need less than 23. So, go buy Roll for Combat PDFs too. Although everything from theirs is Kickstarter. I don't know if you can actually buy from them, but I think that'll be really cool. I know that they have a bunch of stuff out there. We've got a bunch of Battles of Bestiary stuff as well. We Kickstarted it and I got some of it for free. So I actually have a couple copies of it, but okay. Steven's saying, yes, you can. Yeah. So, definitely, I mean, whether it's for you or not, I mean, if you're going to get started in Pathfinder 2, definitely get the Battles of Bestiary. Like that is, for certainly my favorite monster book for Pathfinder 2, in terms of the quality. I mean, Bestiary 1 from Pathfinder 2, you need it because it's got all the classic monsters, but like Bestiary 2, Bestiary 3, skip those. Just go get Battles of Bestiary. And of course they have a whole lineup of new ancestors coming out this year as well. So, and check them out, battlezoo.com. There you go. Again, I'm interested in the game. I'm interested to keep being a part of the community for it. But, if I don't want to go crazy, I got to play something narrative. I got to play some Fate. I got to play some Blades in the Dark. I got to play some, Powered by the Apocalypse. I need to play something else because, there's only so many minis and tactical things and strikes that a man can make before you just want to do something. You want something different. And for those of you who want to keep playing the same game for 25 years in a row, Mazel Tov, God bless you. But I need that difference, and I need that, different option to me available to me. So, all right. I think we're going to wrap up. Frostjack, can you buy the hardcover RFC books from their site? I believe so. I'm sure Roll for Combat will chime in, but I think they're saying that you can. That is, yes. Okay. Yes, you can. Strat says, Bestiary 3 is the best Paizo PF2 bestiary because it has at least interesting ideas in it. Bestiary 2 is the weakest, yeah. I mean, I still prefer BCB to B2 or B3, but yeah, B3, they were trying to do some different things. I just don't know that they succeeded. I think that, people should push the design. And I actually think that the third-party publishers like Roll for Combat actually have a little bit more freedom in that design because, right, Paizo can't rock the boat too much because people look at this and say, well, this is official. And that's just a big deal to a lot of people when something is official. And so Paizo has to be very conservative. They can't be very liberal when it comes to their design elements because they got to kind of make sure that they keep it on the balance, which again is why I'm very surprised by some of the design decisions that they did in the kineticist and the thaumaturge and the psychic, because I'm like, okay, well, they're starting to rock the boat a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, I think marketing has been an issue for them, but it's also just like D&D is it's the megalith. I mean, it's a buy. Some people don't even know that role-playing games are different from D&D and that D&D isn't all role-playing games. And if you tell somebody, like, I mean, I'm sure everyone here, if, you're going to play Pathfinder 2 or you're going to play your, Blades in the Dark or Dungeon World game, and somebody asks you, oh, what did you do last night? You say, oh, I played D&D. Right? You use that term. We've all done that. You're not going to sit there and explain, well, it's like D&D, but it's not D&D. It's Pathfinder 2. It's a different game, but it's the same game. You're not going to do that. You just tell them, I play D&D. And if you're doing that, and we're all doing that, right? No wonder D&D is the name that everybody knows and everybody thinks of. And when they watch Stranger Things, they see D&D. And when they go to Barnes & Noble, they see D&D. I mean, I think it's hilarious. At my Barnes & Noble, if you go to the role-playing game section, you've got Pathfinder 2. You've got Flames of War, or whatever that game, that real thick, crazy, gritty one. Oh, gosh, I can't even remember the name of the game. But there's like several different RPGs. And then all the D&D books are just empty boxes that you have to take to the front, and they have to give you the book back because people keep stealing the D&D books. But the other RPG books, they just stay. They're just right there on the shelf. People could steal them, I guess, if they wanted to, but no one does. But the D&D books kept getting stolen, and so they had to put them behind the counter. Oh yeah, we're playing this hack of PF2 with micro TTRPG of my own designs hacked on top of it. We're using kind of some pseudo-narrative mechanics from Blades in the Dark, but the Harper-esque take on the PBTA framework was a little bit too extreme for us, so we backed that up, but I love the narrative option and storytelling capabilities of Fate, plus the meta-currency exchange there is very, very, very interesting with Fate points. It almost has a Monster Heart-esque string component to it, where you can use that meta-currency to increase and improve character narrative design, but ultimately we do want some sick combat, and that's where the tactical game mini game comes in, and that's where PF2 comes in. But I must admit I did include some elements from Strike and 4th edition. Okay. By the way, I don't know. By the way, what I said would actually be a really sweet game. Yeah, it's like trying to explain some of the difference between a Ford or a Hyundai, and they've never even seen a car, right? They just go, yeah, it's a car. Oh, sick burn from Damian Williams. It's a good impersonation of Vin there. No, because I mentioned that I would be including narrative elements. I should just end the stream now. Yeah, I agree. And so with that, I listened to Bill. We're already almost an hour over, so just want to say thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me. We're going to be back Saturday, talk about Fate, give away some books. We're going to be back next Tuesday to talk about I don't know what. We'll find out. Thursday, a week from today, right? A couple days before Christmas, we're going to be doing our Pop-It Christmas Adventure. I'm going to be running a game for Bob and, you know, all the usual people, all the usual suspects, but also some patrons, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that. So hopefully you can join us for some of that, all of that, and you know, have fun with us and enjoy everybody. Thank you again for being here. Thank you again to our patrons for supporting the show. Thank you to the incredible donations and tips tonight. You all are absolutely incredible, and you all are absolutely insane. Thank you for being a part of us. Thank you for being part of this community, and you're just as important to this success as I am, or Smith, or Bob, because without you, there's none of this. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on Knights of Last Call.